Hello again, friends, and you are our friends, and Happy New Year! Welcome to the very first episode of Jim Cornette's Drive-Thru of 2021. I am the great Brian Last, your host, and I'll be reading your questions sent on Twitter using the hashtag CornyDriveThru or via email to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com to this man, the Louisville Lip himself, Mr. Jim Cornette.
Yeah, happy fucking New Year.
What's your problem?
Remember that relaxing, stress-free holiday break that I talked about that I was going to take, Brian, where we weren't going to have to record a program and I wasn't going to be having to run to the post office before dawn in freezing weather, and I was going to sit by the fire and play with the puppy dog and enjoy family and home and hearth and no stress, no anxiety. Yeah, that flew straight up a monkey's ass. The 2020, if ever, thank you, fuck you, bye, should be applied to a year. And many people did purchase the thank you, fuck you, bye t-shirts and face masks for just such an occasion. But it had to give me a couple of boots on the way out just to where, we worked the deal out where we pre-recorded, and we had about a 11-day, 12-day stretch there where we weren't scheduled to record anything. And that's the longest that we've gone in at least a year. I don't remember what we did last holiday season. And then we did the special omnibus program in the middle of that, but that, was necessary. But when last we visited on the regularly scheduled podcast, when last we visited the Cult of Cornette listeners, I had just revealed to them that we discovered the source of the water coming from under the dishwasher in the kitchen, which was the busted, leaky, old lead pipe in the wall. The people came and they cut the holes out, the backs out of my cabinets in the kitchen, holes in the wall, and changed that pipe out. And I had a fish pond that had developed in my crawl space that was going to need to be addressed, right? And so I said, I don't want people, because they're to do this crawl space thing, they got to bring in the guy with the wet vac, the sump pump, the shop vac, the thing that sucks up the water. They got to bring that in, suck up the water, and they got to bring in the blowers, the fans that blow in. They got to bring the dehumidifier, and they got to wipe all the shit. I don't want them doing this on Christmas weekend. Supposed to be peaceful, right? I said, wait till next week. It's been there for who knows how long. Is another 3 days going to make any difference? They said, no, it'll be fine. We'll come next week, right? So the following week, they had picked a day. And I'll have to suffer the presence of outsiders, of interlopers on this one particular day, but at least I'll get my crawl space dried up. Well, they're supposed to be here at 9 o'clock in the morning. And the dispatch woman is very nice. She actually knew people that lived down the street from me, been out here in this area many times. Very polite woman. She was calling me to give me the updates, but they were supposed to be here at 9 o'clock in the morning, and they didn't make it because they apparently had a flooded church. The baptisms got out of hand. I'm not sure what was going on, but the church was flooded, and the crew had been redirected to that. So I'm sitting there waiting every hour. Well, then one more hour. So finally, by about 4 o'clock that day, they had gotten here, set this stuff up, and gotten out the front door. But at least it was late. I get 2 free days. I got 2 free days out of the deal because of New Year's weekend, right? So the crawl space was being addressed. But one thing that I plan to do, Brian, and you know how odd this is, I was actually going to return phone calls over Christmas weekend.
You never do that anymore.
Well, because people are going, why are you such a prick? No, it's because I do return phone calls if they're related to business or the shit's on fire. It's got, a time limit, or, I never talk to friends that I want to talk to just about nothing because I want to talk to them. I'm always talking to you, Brian, instead. Chuckle there. No, we talk quite a bit, but I never just call people back because I don't have time, because I'm always running around like my head's on fire. I don't make social calls. So I figured Christmas weekend, I'm going to call people back that I've owed phone calls to for months and months and months. And actually, at first, I'd called you to let you know about our plot with you on our recording schedule for that omnibus deal. And I couldn't get you. The call wouldn't go through. I said, his phone's fucked up. So I sent you an email saying your phone's fucked up. And you call me like 10 minutes later. I said, your phone's fucked up. I haven't noticed anything. Well, the reason why you didn't was because my phone was fucked up. Because then I tried to call somebody else.
You insisted to me that it was my phone.
I insisted to you. Hey, don't tell me I'm a fucking idiot, motherfucker. Before we went on the air today, you took 3 tries to get the right month. So don't fucking cast aspersions over here on. Anyway, I tried to call somebody else. It was get a constant busy signal. It wouldn't ring or anything. Just and then what the fuck? Well, Brian just called me. And then I tried to call somebody here in town, and it went through. And over a trial and error period of that, I figured out that I could receive long-distance phone calls. Do they even say that anymore? It's a long-distance call. Long distance is calling. Anything out of my local area, I could make local calls and get local calls in return. I could receive long-distance calls, but I couldn't make any goddamn call to somebody past local call. I would just get this incessant meh, meh, meh. And then I start thinking, well, fuck, and it's Christmas weekend, so you know you're going to sit on some kind of hold for a long period of time. And besides that, I'm thinking, how the fuck do you call the phone company to tell them that your phone doesn't work? Think about that. So anyway, I said, fuck it. It's not meant for me to call people back. I'm going to wait till Monday morning, and I'm going to call my telephone carrier and give them a piece of my mind. And from that point on, we possibly will end this relationship. In the future, we will neither nod nor speak, right? And I get up Monday morning, I turn the news on, which I hadn't paid attention to over Christmas weekend because I was puttering about the house and some of these other things I'm telling you about. And then I watched the news. My phone carrier of my office phone here, which was the phone in question, plugged into the wall like Alexander Graham Bell intended it to be, is AT&T. And I watched the news. That Nashville bomber on Christmas blew up the AT&T building. And then suddenly I try to call you to see if it works because I figure, well, if I can call you, my phone is working again. And son of a bitch, wouldn't you know who won the pony? The call went through. But by then I didn't have time to call all these people that I was going to call over my leisurely Christmas weekend. So I'm still doing that in the future. But can you believe that the bomber conspired on Christmas to fuck up my phone reception? They're trying to figure out what the motive was. He was obviously one of these AEW fans.
Oh, stop it.
That wanted to silence me, and he thought we did this show by phone, and he blew up the AT&T building specifically to keep me off the air.
There are plenty of other people that hate you.
That's true.
Did you hear the tape, like the creepy audio of like the warning that was coming out of his RV before it blew up?
Yeah, it was something like, if you can hear this, evacuate now.
Oh, wasn't that? It was like a weak voice. I was like, if you hear this message, please evacuate. Really creepy. And then apparently it played Petula Clark's Downtown.
What? Wait, what now?
You didn't hear that? Oh, no.
I did not hear this.
Apparently the warnings were going off for a while, and that's a weird thing to hear if you're in your apartment sleeping and all of a sudden, please evacuate if you could hear this. And then it played Downtown by Petula Clark, which got lumped into the British invasion.
See, now you're saying that he was sending mixed messages. I'm surprised people didn't get hurt over this because at one time he said, evacuate, get away. And then he's playing a pleasing melodic pop song from the 60s that would encourage everybody to gather downtown. The lights are much brighter there. You can forget all your troubles and forget all your cares and go downtown.
But listen to some of the other lyrics, though. when you're alone and life is making you lonely, you could always go downtown.
Mm-hmm.
When you've got worries, all the noise and the hurry seems to help, I know. I mean, it's kind of creepy if you actually apply it to what he did, this lunatic.
You know, it's actually even creepier that you've given it that much thought.
Well, I've read several articles about it. I'm not the originator of this.
You're on the same wavelength as the bomber in that, well, I'll send this plain message by playing Petula Clark's Downtown. Everybody will know I'm about to blow something up.
What's the frequency, Kenneth?
But anyway, so even if he wasn't trying to silence me, he prevented many, many people from getting the Christmas miracle of a phone call from Jim Cornette. Then, speaking of the phone, I've mentioned to everybody Stacy's back problem issue. She's going to have surgery on at some point. This was a few days before Christmas. They informed her the week before Christmas. They informed her of this. They said, we'll call you to schedule a surgery because we have to know the store at Cornette's Collectibles at jimcornette.com is closed for the month of January. It was going to be in anyway, but now that's an open-ended close based on when her surgery is, what her recuperation time is. She's not supposed to lift anything over 10 pounds for a set period of time, blah, blah, blah. It's also quite painful. She's limping around. After 2 weeks, hear nothing, so she calls. Gets the doctor. The doctor looks at her chart, I guess, over the phone. He says, oh, yes, that cyst there is pressing on the nerve. It's quite large. Needs to be taken out. That must be quite painful. Yes. We'll call you and let you know when we can do that. That's it. We still know nothing more than we did 2 to 2.5 weeks ago about when this potential thing might happen. Bear in mind that the weather, since my little break started, has sucked. I think 3 times now it's mostly been cold and wet and dreary, but 3 times some kind of front has come through where for a period of time it's 60 degrees, like just hours, and then suddenly it rains, pours rain, and then 12 hours later it's snow flurry and it's below freezing. But so the weather has sucked. So this leads into the next story, which is just rotten. Because I haven't been outside much because it's been cold and it's been raining and wet. And I hadn't been out on my deck for the same reason. So this was just right before New Year's. I think it was 2 days, the 30th or whatever, 2 days before New Year's. I happened to be looking out. I'm in the office here and I look out at my deck and I'm admiring the work that the Monroe brothers did on replacing the flooring on my deck and painted the railing and everything. It looks nice. And I look back and I see something on the fence row in between me and the next door neighbor. It looks like a big white plastic bag has blown up against the wire fence or something. It's stuck there. I'm like, well, that looks odd. And it's right next to a bush. And I'm like, what? So I get the binoculars. And a deer has gone to jump over the fence from my yard to the next door neighbor's yard. And he wasn't that big of a deer. And he's got his left rear foot hooked in you know what a farm fence looks like, has the squares of wire, right?
Yeah.
He's got his left foot hooked in that, and he's gone over the top, and he's done like the boys do the fucking tying your arms in the ropes deal, where the bottom one's over the top and top one's over the bottom. And he's stuck there, and he's laying on the other side. And he's just laying there like deer do. They just lay there, you know, but he can't get his legs still sticking in this 4.5 foot tall fence and the rest of him's down on the ground. And I freak out because now I haven't been looking. I don't know how long he might have been there. And I'm like, what the fuck? So I run down, I'm screaming at Stace. We're running back there. And oh boy, when we got there, he'd been there some time because, I mean, his ankle was all cut up where the wire was around it and everything. And he's seeing us and we're freaking him out. And he's trying to get up and he can't move. And he's making the noise they make. And she's reached through trying to pet him and calm him down through the fence and get the wire cutters and cut the wire and boom, and down he goes. By now my neighbor's come out because he's seen us running, flailing our arms around in the backyard. And the poor thing is down on its belly and trying to get up, but he's either, I don't know whether he broke his leg or broke or dislocated his hip, but he can't stand up. And he's trying to hop on the 3 legs and trying to get away from us. We're backing up and leaving him some room. And I'm screaming, Stace, go get your phone, call the vet. Because I'm thinking our vet may not be able to treat deer, but they can tell us, hopefully someone that can. And so the poor thing kind of crawls up to the shop building that the guy's got in his backyard, and we can get, around the bushes, and he feels safer there, and he's just laying there. So we're not going to chase him because then he's going to hurt himself worse. Well, our vet is closed because it's going on 5 o'clock. So she calls the emergency 24-hour vet clinic over here. We've taken Harley to a time or two. And they say, oh, well, we can't do wildlife like that. And you'd have to, contact, what did they say first? Because this was a lot of phone calls. Oh, they say, contact such and such wildlife sanctuary, which is way far away from here. But they might know something. Well, we try to call that number. Well, that number won't go through. That they've just given us. Then we call another animal clinic over here that they also gave us the number to, and they said, oh, you got to call Zabada. Well, we finally get this other wildlife sanctuary, and they said, oh, well, we don't come and get them. I said, well, then how are they supposed to get there? Take a fucking bus? What the fuck? Who can tell me? Apparently, as I'm about to let you people know, there is nobody in a city of 1 million people that you can call that will come and help a poor hurt deer in your backyard, even if you're willing to pay thousands of dollars for that service. Because I'm trying to find anybody that will take my money to help this fucking deer. And then the neighbor starts calling. He calls the 311 to get the... Oh, and then also somebody said, call Kentucky Wildlife and Game or something. What's the number? Well, I don't know, but Google it. So Stacy Googles it. We call that number, and that number takes us to the fucking state police station in E-Town, which is 60 miles from here in a different county. I explained to them what the problem is. They say, oh, it's in Jefferson County. Oh, let me transfer you. Hold on the line for 2 minutes, and then the line goes dead. So the neighbor's trying to call around. And remember, we had a deer accident situation here a few years ago when one of our deer got hit by a car down front. The cops came out. And that was I guess that's in the archives or on YouTube somewhere. I'm not even going to revisit that horrifying fucking story. So the neighbor calls the cops, and it's fucking, by now it's getting dark, and they say, oh, wait, maybe tomorrow you should call so-and-so. And now I'm freaking out, because now the poor thing has to lay there all night, right? So all night, not all night, because now I'm a nervous wreck. I'm got anxiety. I'm starting to get heart fucking palpitations. My chest is tight. Stacy gives me 2 Xanaxes. So that I can go to sleep, because and then I'm thinking, should I be taking water back there? No, I don't want to scare him. He'll hurt himself worse. What the fuck? So then the next morning, the neighbor had said he's going to call me when he gets somebody on the phone. Well, I didn't hear, and I'm just not even going to go out in the yard. I don't want to think about this poor thing or see it or whatever. I'll eventually the neighbor will let me know something's happened. Well, then about 10 o'clock or 10:30, Harley starts barking like crazy, and I run back to the other side of the house, and Stace says, we just heard a gunshot. I'm like, off. And now, because when I woke up that morning, poor thing, that's first thing on my mind, so I'm miserable anyway. Now I'm fucking even more miserable. Right? And I'm sitting there, and I'm thinking, well, I'm supposed to be doing stuff, but I'm moping, and the phone rings, and it's a neighbor. And I said, hello. I said, yeah, we heard the gunshot. It was, I guess the only thing they could do for it, blah, blah, blah. Guess what? Because now, let me preface this by saying that this guy has lived here for a couple years. He's a very nice guy. We've, had conversations back and forth, but it's not like he's known me for years or knows me in every way perfectly. So this is not as a preposterous a thing to ask me as what you people will know that it is, right, to him. But guess what he asked me? So I was wondering if you could do me a favor. I said, what's that? He said, can you help me get the deer in the back of my truck so I can take it over to my other property? I'm like, they didn't take it? And well, first I just busted out laughing, and he's like, "No, it's not a big deer." I said, "No, I know how big it is. The idea that someone would ask me to help dispose of a dead deer and have to look at it, not a body." I told him, I said, "Now if it's a human body and you got a legitimate reason for having it, I'll help you. But no, but." If it was him or you and he started it, I'll help you out, Richie, right? But no, I can't. No, not a deer. But I just busted out laughing at first because what a preposterous question to ask me. I said, I'll pay somebody else to do it. I'll come over. I'll cut your grass. I can't see this poor dead deer. I've been on Xanax for a day and a half because of this thing. So he got it, but I said they didn't take it. No, they just came. It was the cops finally came over because nobody else would do it and shot the poor thing. So that branched over into New Year's Day. I'm in a state of Xanaxed deer depression for that period of time. And then what is today? So the day after New Year's, yesterday, as the crow flies, I haven't talked to you. I'm up early as I am every day, but Stace doesn't usually get up that early. But I'm up here in the office at 9, not even quite 9 o'clock. The phone rings. Hello? And she said, "Come down here." I said, "What's the matter?" She said, "There's a lost dog down here." I'm like, "What?" So I'm running down. She has got up to let Harley out. And there was I go down into the tub room and open the door where I think that she is with Harley. And there is an almost full grown, feisty, lovable golden retriever or Labrador of some kind, just running around in circles. I'm like, there's a lost dog in the house. Well, he came up to the door and scratched on the door. She was about to let Harley out and saw there's a dog there. And he's like, "Psh, psh, psh, can I come in and play?" So now it's 30-something degrees and it's wet. And we haven't had a stray dog in our yard in ages, because the people who live to the left of us have one of those electric fences, and her dog never gets out. And the people that live to the right, their backyard's fenced in. They got little dogs. And then, as I said with the deer, we have like these 4 or 5 properties together. If they would stay in this area, they'd be safe. But they try to keep going into the subdivisions or going across the road, and bad things happen to them. They have their deer-friendly properties here, and they got almost 20 acres, combined. But they've, this dog has come from somewhere outside the periphery, which means it's one of these subdivisions, and there's 250 fucking houses. I'm feeling it's got a collar on, but no tag with the fucking name or the whatever. I'm thinking, what the fuck are we going to do here now? So with it might be Chip. And it was so feisty, we couldn't tell whether it was until later on that it was a boy dog, but we couldn't tell what it was, right? Because it was being very feisty, it wouldn't hold still. So maybe it's chipped, because they got the chip now they can put in. We got Harley one where, the vets can scan and you can see who the dog is and who's its owner is by this little chip they implant in them, which is we ought to keep track of the Republicans that way. So we think, can we get this big dog into the truck, take the dog over to the vet, have him scan for the chip? Boy, get a treat. We'll try to lure it in the truck. It seems friendly. It's just, happy and tongue wagging. Well, I pulled Black Beauty out, and Stace gets one of Harley's leashes and puts it on the collar, and it immediately runs and jumps in the back door. As soon as the door opens, it's first one in. So it's a family dog. So we go over to the vet. They scan it, get the chip information. We call this some guy from the one of these subdivisions over here now. And I don't know how if you've only got one of these subdivision houses, a dog this size doesn't have room to run around, for heaven's sake. Their yards are just like postage stamps. This dog needs to be out in the country with a farm where he can run free with the cows. Anyway, so the guy comes in, picks up the dog, and then we come back home. Very restful and relaxing vacation. Not a lot happened. No reason to get upset. How was yours?
Not bad. Not bad,
Oh,
man.
good.
I still worked primarily during it, but I got to also chill out. I got to watch season 3 of Cobra Kai, which I was really looking forward to. And Stephen P. New recommended I watch The Mandalorian, so I'm going to watch that pretty soon. And it took 20 days. 20 days.
It's there.
Including 10 days in the state of New Jersey. But the Buddy Rogers book, Master of the Ring, by Tim Hornbaker, finally arrived, and I'm in the middle of it, and I'm in love with it. It is extraordinary.
It's fabulous.
Extraordinary. The research he did. And everything's sourced, so you see where everything came from. Fantastic. Just what a fantastic job.
But 10 days in New Jersey, it takes an hour and 10 minutes to drive from one end of New Jersey to the other.
Yeah, there's no excuse. There's no excuse. I have other things that were sent to me, either at the house or at the P.O. box, that got here in 2 days, 3 days. This was sent priority mail with a tracking number, thank God. So I was able to see the disgrace.
So you were able to see that it wasn't even near you at this, and it wasn't being delivered to you.
Why is it spending another day in Edison, New Jersey? I can't explain this. But apparently the post office...
I have to get up early.
The post office is very
have
short.
no maid and probably never shall.
Okay, I don't know where that's from. Well, what is that from?
It's a gift. You sound like W.C. Fields' wife. I have to get up early and make breakfast for you and the children. I have no maid and probably never shall.
Well, speaking of gifts, a lot of people think that your programming is a gift to them. And a lot of people may right now be thinking, this show's been going on for 30 minutes. Not one wrestling-themed question or comment or anything about professional wrestling. I want to sue.
Well, if they do, you know what I'm going to tell them to? I'm going to tell them to do, rather. I'll tell you what I'm going to tell them to do.
What is that you're going to tell them to do?
I'm going to tell them to go piss up a rope because they can't sue me because I have the greatest litigator in the history of all litigation. I have the Baron of the Barristers. I have the Legal Eagle. I have the consigliere of the Cult of Cornette all wrapped up. And if you try to sue with anyone but my guy, then you're going to lose, lose, lose. So there's no even reason to try. And you know who my guy is, Brian.
Call Stephen P. News. If you need to sue. An outlaw mud show or two. Those are the rest.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, about to take on a case against the Kentucky Department of Fish, Wildlife, and Game for leaving injured deer in people's backyards. Stephen P. New can take your case as well. He's not just going to defend the defenseless, poor little furry woodland creatures. He is going to defend the poor, defenseless human beings and Homo sapiens that are downtrodden, damaged, and otherwise inconvenienced by major corporations, negligent people, hard-hearted billionaires, and other individuals who put profit and malice before the public good. And whether it's the opioid addiction issue, whether it's the mistreatment of the elderly in nursing homes, whether it's the cancer that was given to an entire town in West Virginia, whether it's the many, many cases that Stephen P. New is currently filing for cancer caused by Roundup, or the baby powder issue that we've talked about so many times in the past. How many times, Brian, in the last 2 or 3 years have we mentioned some group of people who have been harmed or damaged, or their families, that Stephen P. New, like a white knight in shining armor, is riding a horse of legal justice straight through their courtroom like Marshal Matt Dillon? How many of those groups and people have we talked about Stephen P. New helping? I'll tell you how many. A bunch. That's how many. He can help you too, folks. 888-692-8084, newlawoffice.com. Get even with Stephen, the most famous barrister in and around professional wrestling since the days of Clarence Mason. He can help you, or he can point you in the right direction. Sometimes that direction is straight to hell, but nevertheless, he will point you in the right direction. Stephen P. New, newlawoffice.com.
You know, there have been wrestlers we've talked about in the past that have become doctors. Are there any wrestlers that became lawyers?
Ooh, not just locker room lawyers, but actual lawyers?
Legit lawyers, courtroom lawyers.
I know that we have recently found out that there are a couple of people who have just squeaked by the law exam who moonlight as wrestlers, but I don't think it's ever happened in the other direction. That's interesting. But then again, would you want Killer Tim Brooks to defend you in a court of law over a fucking statutory charge of some description?
Well, it doesn't have to be Killer Tim Brooks. Ladies and gentlemen, for the defense, the missing link.
Yeah, I'm thinking some famous gimmicks that would walk into the courtroom in a fucking suit and tie and present their case, but looking facially like they looked in their wrestling days. Interesting. Maybe Bull Belinsky. He'd be a good attorney.
Heyman.
Well, now, actually, Heyman's got it in his genes.
That's right.
That's not what some of the girls used to tell me, but Heyman's father was an attorney, so I'm surprised that Paul didn't end up being an attorney. He has played one on television.
That's right. Well, let's get some questions, Jim. And obviously, because of our recording schedule, several questions came in during this period of time where we were off. So they relate to something.
Yeah, you were off. I asked you what you were doing. You were working. You read a couple of books, did some thing. You didn't have any lost dogs show up. You didn't have any animal emergencies. You didn't have any surgeries that can't be scheduled. You didn't have any people crawling around in your crawl space. You didn't have anybody bombing your telephone service.
I didn't. I did watch Die Hard a couple times, a good Christmas movie. But, like I said, things have happened in the world of professional wrestling that people want to know about.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker, then let's get to it.
This question is one that many people have sent in, a ton of people, actually. So this is from a few weeks ago. AEW, their show was delayed. It didn't air at its normal time because of the NBA on TNT, causing a lot of NBA fans to tune into AEW seemingly for the first time and see Chris Jericho. Did you follow this at all? It went pretty viral, the reaction of NBA fans on Twitter to Chris Jericho.
I saw it on Twitter and saw people, I guess people were calling it NBA Twitter. Is there actually a group of people on Twitter that do nothing but tweet about the NBA like there are the group of people on Twitter about wrestling? Or is that it's just so many people watch basketball and the NBA that a lot of people tweet about it anyway?
I'm not exactly sure. This is the first I had really been exposed to NBA Twitter.
I don't know that there's any organized NBA Twitter or whatever like there is wrestling, because maybe basketball fans, maybe just don't care that much because they don't have any storylines to complain about. But yeah, well, I mean, why is anybody surprised? This is another thing that I've been saying for a long, long time. Whether you like it or not, Chris Jericho is the biggest mainstream name recognition star in AEW, specifically because of his years and years spent with the WWE when their ratings were much higher than they are now. It's not because he main evented the Tokyo Dome a couple of years ago. It's not because he's with AEW now. It's not because he was with WCW in 1998. It's because he was a big star on WWE TV for a significant period of time when they were doing much better ratings themselves than they are now. That's just math and common sense. That's not saying he's the greatest wrestler in AEW. Some people, well, no, the biggest star is this guy and that guy. No, that may be your pick for the best wrestler or your favorite wrestler. But there is nobody, even Cody was there for a shorter period of time, did not achieve nearly as much success. And I'm not saying that was his fault either. He was not used to the level that Jericho was. This is common fucking Kenny Olivier. Give me a break. on the radar map of mainstream wrestling names in the United States, he ain't on it. Because the average person in the United States doesn't read the internet to get the Tokyo Dome results. They would have watched it if they're not particularly close wrestling fans, they would have watched wrestling from the WWE probably 10 or 15 years ago at least, and potentially glanced at it in a sports bar at some point if it was on. So with Jericho being, and that's the point, with Jericho being the person that they recognize of all of the people on that program, and they haven't seen him in 15 years, they're thinking, what the fuck? This guy is a wrestler from 15 years ago, and he was established then. He's still wrestling, and oh shit, he doesn't look very good, and this is a knockoff promotion. Look at these other goofballs. That was the gist of Twitter.
Well, that's what it is. And to your point, Jericho is, in terms of name recognition, the biggest star they have. It makes sense taking a guy like that and putting him in the opening match on a show where you're going to get that big audience from the NBA, potentially still having the channel on. We've talked about his physique and its changes, and we watch him regularly. These are people who have not seen him in a long time, and this is their reaction to Chris Jericho. And that's what I thought was pretty interesting. These are non-wrestling fans.
But this is more than a hit piece on Jericho. Although that will obviously be one of the purposes this serves. And let's be fair, nobody looks the same after 15 years. Well, actually, Lance Storm does. And that's kind of funny. Lance Storm, if you put hair on him, right now looks the same physically he did, and probably he's a little lighter 30 years ago, and Jericho's the painting in fucking Dorian Gray's attic. But more importantly, they got a new audience who obviously knew who a wrestler from the past was to sample the program, and the feedback, besides Jericho being older and out of shape, was it's a knockoff program. They got that impression from seeing everything else about it that they were seeing about it. The guys he was in the ring with, the fucking overall tone of the program. That's what they thought. Well, it's some knockoff. And that's why there's the test group I've been talking about. If you wanted to do a show to appeal to the same people that knew who all these guys were before you went on the air, then you have succeeded. But to make an impression on a group who doesn't live and die with wrestling and has not watched it in a while, but obviously watched it in the past because they knew who Jericho was and they knew what was going on there, thinks it looks like some kids. And that's why that, I'm sorry, they cannot grow an audience presenting something that looks like, oh, okay, this is, they hired it basically told the people, we hired a big star that you know from a long time ago, and we put him here with all of our guys that have never been on TV before, and it shows. That was the market research from the NBA group, right?
I have some of the quotes here if you'd like to hear them.
Well, do proceed.
Why am I watching a pudgy Chris Jericho wrestling? I can't believe Chris Jericho is still wrestling. He's built like Miss Trunchbull? I don't know who that is.
I
Bruh. I'm sorry. Bruh. What is Chris Jericho doing on this bootleg AEW wrestling league? And why wrestlers' bodies fall off so bad? Chris Jericho, a king in this knockoff WWE, huh? Celtics win and Chris Jericho is fat. Good vibes only. Chris Jericho is fat as hell. Chris Jericho looks awful. Ugh. Is Chris Jericho's new persona supposed to be Bret Michaels? Can't believe Chris Jericho is still fighting. Dude is old, fat, and slow now. Laugh out loud. Yo, Chris Jericho done got fat. This AEW shit is funny as hell. Jesus Christ, Chris Jericho looks fucking awful. Laugh my ass off. My man Chris Jericho got a beer belly. Bro, Chris Jericho need to get out of the ring, laugh out loud. Dude lost it. Chris Jericho is still wrestling? He ought to be shamed. And what the fuck is AEW? And finally, Chris Jericho, fat as shit, with several smiley faces. You know,
several smiley faces.
But the thing is, there aren't a lot of wrestlers physically who have dropped off to the degree Jericho has. I know he's older. He's not 40 years old anymore. He's not on the gas anymore, I don't think. But we've seen a lot of guys, more in the last generation than before, wrestle for a very long time. Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, Kurt Angle. We've seen a lot of guys wrestle into old age. I mean, Flair's body changed, but there aren't that many. I can't think of any who have had the drastic physical change that Jericho's had. Can you?
Well, and Flair's started changing when he was already older than Jericho is now. I mean, Jesus Christ. But it's not even, I go back and I look, I think about, the territory days guys, they all wrestled longer into an older age, and it wasn't as obvious their deterioration because they didn't look as wonderful to begin with, so they didn't have as far to fall. They always just looked good. I think about Nick Bockwinkel. He still looked and performed physically the same at 55 as he did at 35. But then there was other guys that, that fell off somewhat also. But I'm just saying that is not even the point of this program or of this sample of comments to me. It's they knew who one guy was, and there was nothing like, hey, wow, look at this shit, or hey, look at this one guy. It was all, God, this guy's fat, and the rest of this shit's outlaw. They got a shot at impressing a new audience. If there were some impressive people on the program being presented in an impressive way, then maybe one of those people would have made an impression. But the impression that a bunch of random ex-wrestling fans got was that Jericho's still wrestling, he looks like shit, and this is an obvious rip-off promotion. Or knockoff promotion, I should say, or cheap. If they knew the word outlaw, they'd have probably used it. There's your market research. I hate it when things that I say keep coming true. We probably are going to talk about another few of those on this program as well.
Well, another topic that came up during the break, I'll read this question sent to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com from Jack Burton, the Pork Chop Express.
Pork chop.
Don't know if this raises the stupidity bar or not, but reports are emerging, as per Dave Meltzer, that WWE has pulled Pat McAfee from television. Little has been said as to why, but the choice was apparently WWE's and not McAfee's. This makes no sense to me, given how well received Pat's work has been. Might this be due to an injury? Flat out stupidity? Maybe Meltzer has this wrong somehow. Have you or Brian seen anything about this story yet?
Well, it's not an injury because McAfee tweeted that it was news to him when he read it, that he's, am I getting fired on Christmas Day? Not that it was news he's being taken off television, but news that it was the WWE was doing it on purpose. There's no injury that at least McAfee has admitted to, or that has been teased or talked about. Basically, as I understand it, Brian, tell me if I'm missing anything. The WWE has just decided they're not going to use McAfee until the spring, and then they apparently the allusion to this was that they would bring him back at that point. And McAfee's like, I don't know what's going on. I'm sure that somebody, I'm not saying it's not a stupid decision, because why take Pat McAfee? One of the only good things about that show, if Pat McAfee would just marry Rhea Ripley and that would be just them two on that show, I could live with it. So why would you take McAfee off a show that's that deadly fucking dull already when he's one of the best things about it if he's willing to work on it? That's what I don't understand. I'm sure that somebody has concocted something that they've convinced somebody else is a good reason for doing it, but it's stupid.
He's the best promo they have there. The reason I had heard was fear of overexposure.
What the fuck? He's a great promo. He's produced in the ring when they've given him the opportunity, and that doesn't mean if you don't want the guy overexposed, don't put him in 6 segments on every show, but that doesn't mean take him off the show for 3 fucking months. Have these people in charge of these programs ever watched television before, much less written it? So I can't explain it. I don't know what sense there is in taking off, unless, who was it? It was Punk, right? That tweeted, said everybody on the roster should be embarrassed and ashamed of themselves that this part-time guy that's had 2 matches is one of the verbal and physical highlights of the program. Maybe they just say, shit, he's showing everybody that the rest of our guys are bland and boring. So let's, instead of making them more exciting, let's take him off TV. Could that be it?
Well, I don't know exactly why, but I think it's stupid. He seems to be really into it. He's really talented. He's been everything you could want and more. But Jim, on that topic, this is a question that has come in several times from several people, but I think it kind of follows up on this, so I'll read it. Sent to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com from David in Nashville. In 2011, Road Dogg Jesse James returned to the WWE and began as a producer and writer for SmackDown. This could be considered the dark ages of that show. Then, in May of 2019, he left SmackDown for NXT, and that show hasn't been the same since. It sucks. How much blame should we be giving to the DOGG for destroying NXT?
I have no earthly idea. And I've got to be playing, of course, in the interest of full disclosure, I love the Armstrong family and everybody in it. But I haven't been there. I don't know who does what on these programs. And I find it hard to believe that if one person was calling all the shots, the program would be better, regardless of what you thought about the talent being used or whatever. If one person was doing everything, then Brian, you'll agree with this, the show would be better. It might not be great, but any show with one person writing it instead of a bunch of people involved is going to be better, just as a rule of thumb, because it just becomes a mess otherwise. But having said that, I don't know what the fuck Road Dogg does there, and I don't know what he did with SmackDown, and I don't know what he does with NXT. But I find it hard to swallow that an offspring of Bullet Bob Armstrong, if you gave any one of the boys full control to do whatever they wanted to on a wrestling program, it doesn't look like anything I would think they'd come up with. So I don't know. I don't specifically know of anything that he has done good or bad. So I err on the side of safety by saying I think it's a team. This level of suckage from all of their programs is a team effort. And as we've mentioned many times, when I first got to the WWF, I heard the old saying that the WWF is a land of fruits and nuts, and they point to Vince and say, and there is the head cashew. So I think it's a team effort at suckage led by the head cashew, because it don't resemble a wrestling program. None of them do, or any wrestling program you would think an offspring of a great fucking wrestler would be in charge of.
Well, Jim, cashews or any kind of nut can be healthy, could have some protein, but not as many nutrients and vitamins as a growing boy needs every day. And I think a lot of people think that NXT might be better off if the writing staff there, for lack of a better term, would begin their day with some athletic greens.
Well, I'll tell you, whenever I think of NXT, the word green immediately comes to mind. But when I think of... See, that would have been an easier transition.
That was pretty good.
Less wordy. Yeah,
that was pretty good.
But when I think of starting the day off right and cleaning out my colon and making my my gut health and my digestive enzymes just as happy as schoolgirls with shiny new vibrators, I go for the Athletic Greens, and you can too. Folks, whether it's your digestion, whether it's you want extra energy, whether you like the feeling of being fit and packed with 40 fruits and vegetables and botanicals every single day, along with vitamins and minerals and prebiotics and probiotics and even some postbiotics, digestive enzymes. I'll tell you what, this stuff costs less than a cup of coffee a day. It's as easy as adding water, shaking it up in the shaker that they send you, and gulping it right down, and you'll get enzymes aplenty. No mess, no cleanup, no trips to the grocery store, stuffing shit into the mixer and spinning it around and throwing things all over the kitchen walls and then having to wipe the kitchen walls down and then knocking over a precious family heirloom and then getting in an argument with your spouse or significant other because it was their heirloom and then coming to blows. Well, you won't have to do any of that. Because with Athletic Greens, it's easy, and one tasty scoop of Athletic Greens contains 75 vitamins, minerals, and whole food-sourced ingredients, including a multivitamin, a multimineral, the probiotic, the green superfood blend. It all works together to fill the nutritional gaps in your diet. You need to fill your voids, and Athletic Greens will fill those voids for you, folks, right now. Athletic Greens is doubling down on supporting your immune system during the winter months. Not only will they give you the Athletic Greens mixture, which is keto-free, paleo-free, vegan-free, dairy-free, gluten-free, less than 1 gram of sugar, they'll also give you a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. If you visit my link today, it's mine. athleticgreens.com/JCE. Join health experts, athletes, health-conscious go-getters around the world, and me and Brian, who make a daily commitment to their health. Well, sometimes mine's every other day. Nevertheless, athleticgreens.com/JCE and get your free year's supply of vitamin D and those 5 free travel packs today.
That's right. Let's get another question here, Jim. This one was sent on Twitter using a hashtag CornyDriveThru from good brother Oos_Sapgood.
Okay, is Sapgood his last name?
I'm not exactly sure, but he's a big fan of the show. I know that.
Is Oos his Christian name?
I think it's Oos, U-C-E. Is that how you would pronounce it?
As far as I see, Oosie?
It could be Oosie. That's what I was thinking. It could be Oosie. Well, here's good brother Oos.
Maybe he mistyped and it's Lucy and we're talking about a lady.
I don't think it's that, but here's his question. He sent in something. He said he would like to know your thoughts about the last chapter in Sabu's autobiography. Have you seen this?
I have not, unfortunately. I've missed that.
Now, before we get going with this, what is your relationship with Sabu, if you have one at all?
Well, I know Sabu. We've been around each other on a limited basis, but over the years, a number of times. The last time I saw him was probably 3 or 4 years ago at WrestleCade over in Winston-Salem. He was set up there and had a booth, and we had a short conversation there. But I know that Sabu is the Sheik's nephew and has been involved in some controversial incidents over the past, but I don't have deep insight into what makes Sabu tick, if that's the question you're asking.
I will say this again. I've said it before. One of my favorite Twitter interactions ever was a few years back. He put something on Twitter that was something that could be read as derogatory towards you. Naturally, you saw this and you replied, paraphrasing here, but hey, Sabu, I didn't know we had a problem. If
That's
we
right.
do,
okay, well, wait a minute. Now you're reminding me of something. I just remember this. Go ahead.
He said, I didn't know we had a problem. If we do, let me know. And he replied, Sabu, Sabu, Sabu.
Well, yeah, that's what. See, that's the thing. I will. In the interest of full disclosure, over the past 10 years, he's emailed me a couple of times. And I'm bad with phone calls and bad with emails, too. And I don't answer a lot of them because I get so many of them that I've at times blah, blah, blah. But I try to go through and read, and I saw an email from Sabu, and it was, I can't even remember what the email said, but it was like a very long sentence with no punctuation about something I wasn't really sure how it pertained to me to begin with. And then he signed it, Sabu, 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 Sabu. And he, every time he sends an email, he signs like Sabu, Sabu, Sabu. I don't know. I don't know what's going. But what about his book here? I don't know what happened.
Well, here is the final chapter entitled "F.U. Shoutouts."
Okay.
Now, to all the insecure, jealous, backstabbing, cocksucking, cheap, no-selling assholes I have come across, I'd like to close with some special "fuck you" shoutouts that I crafted just for you, a la Sabu Twitter style, complete with extra comments for extra emphasis. 3 commas after that. To Kurt Angle, because I may have to wrestle you again one day, I won't hit you with a stiff fuck you, but maybe something just a little underneath that and more professional. You know, like, you, sir, I could do without. To Test, I would like to send a really big fuck you shout out beyond the grave.
He's dead.
Well, I would like to send a really big fuck you shout out beyond the grave to a bastard who no-sold like an asshole and always tattled like a baby.
Okay.
Did he have a reputation for running to the office?
Well, not that I'm aware. Probably if Sabu wanted him to fucking hold on to a chair while he moonsaulted off the balcony onto his face, I can see Test may have gone to I don't know what the incident is that's being referred to here, but I can see where Test and Sabu would be opposite personalities. Test was not one of these guys that instantly adapted to the wrestling business mentally, and Sabu with his uncle and grew up around it his whole life and blah, blah, blah. But I can also see where if there was a clash of styles, the chances are Sabu was the one that was wanting to do the shit that Test wasn't really wanting to do, and I don't blame him.
To Koji Kanemoto and his no-selling bullshit, fuck you and your no-selling bullshit. To Jim Ross, I say fuck you for treating the Sheik like trash and ripping him off. You still owe him money, you cocksucker.
Wait.
Feel free to PayPal me the $150,000 or whatever it is at your earliest convenience, prick. That can't be from 88 NWA, can it?
We talked about this on the show maybe a year or two ago, that he still... $150,000 that he owes the Sheik, and Jim Ross wouldn't poor. All right, should we tell the whole thing again?
Are you thinking that though? That it's 88 NWA that he's talking about here?
Well, yes, because Jim Ross never had any other interaction with the Sheik, the original Sheik, and another time when Sabu was talking about it, he mentioned Detroit, which is why we were commenting on it to begin with a few years ago. But yeah, there's no, for the record, Jim Ross does not owe the Sheik $150,000. Not even the Iron Sheik, the Sheik, Sabu's uncle, the wild man from Syria. Somehow, it was just like when Doug Gilbert was mad at me and I had to tell him off and encourage him never to fucking speak to me again. Because he got mad because I wrote the foreword to Howard Brody's book in which right. Howard Brody said shit that Doug for some reason didn't like and was cussing me on the internet about it. I just say, you fucking idiot, have you ever read a book before? Do you know how they work? You know, just because you have 2 famous, great, talented family members, you're the fucking redheaded stepchild, doesn't mean you can motherfuck me on the internet for writing a foreword to somebody else's book and you don't know how that works. In this case, the Sheik was booked to work the Cobo Arena in Detroit for Jim Crockett Promotions in 1988. They had drawn one house in Detroit when Garvin beat Flair for the title at the Joe Louis Arena in previous September of 87, and then business in Detroit had just been the shits. And it was not the town wasn't doing anything. So at the time, Kevin Sullivan, I believe, is one who pitched to Dusty because Kevin had a relationship with the Sheik. Hey, what was the first match? They did a 2-month program. The first match was Dusty and Murdoch against the Sheik and Sullivan, right? And then they did a deal in that match where Murdoch switched heel on him. And they were going to come back the following month with just reversing the partners or whatever, but it didn't come to that. It never came off the second month because point is it was the Great American Bash on tour. I believe it was the summertime of '88, Cobo Arena in Detroit. The Sheik with major local television promotion from Crockett's local TV and big names on the card, a full card for the first time. The Sheik is going to be back in the Cobo in a strong position like that with major names on a card in almost 10 years, and it did $100,000 at the gate. It did, 80-something 100 people at the ticket prices at the time. And so they immediately, as I said, booked Sheik in the rematch and blah, blah, blah. But then the Sheik got mad because when they paid him, I don't know how much the payoff was. I assume it was fairly generous because everybody knew that the reason why that the people came was to see the Sheik back at the Cobo in that light, because we've been running a lot of shows and not drawing there. But the Sheik thought that because he was the Sheik, he should still get 10% of the house, which they weren't even doing that for the NWA champion at that point in time. Flair wasn't getting 10% of the house. He wanted $10,000 for the one night when the match lasted like 6 minutes, right? So he no-showed the next month because they didn't give him 10% of the house. I heard this story concurrently at the time from not only from Kevin, but from Dusty and everybody else, because we had actually started to do promos where the Sheik was coming back, and I'd seen the booking book at local promos, and then they changed it. And, so anyway, that issue was known at that time. That's why the Sheik didn't come back the next month, and that's where the issue lay. Sabu somehow thinks because Jim Ross was the announcer, and I think he had started selling advertising for Crockett maybe at that point, or selling TV advertising, that somehow Jim Ross was the one who should have paid the Sheik the money, and now it's graduated to, instead of $10,000, he owes him $150,000, which was more than the fucking house drew. And there is no other time when Jim Ross would have had any dealings with the original Sheik. Sheik never worked in WWE or WWF when JR was there in any position, and JR would not owe the money. If that was the case to begin with, it would be Vince McMahon, because even when JR was head of talent relations, you think he had the fucking checkbook and tell Vince, oh, Vince, I'm going to go ahead and give Sheik $150,000 because Sabu's pissed. What? That's lunacy. Jim Ross has never been in position to actually be the one to sign the Sheik's check anywhere, and nobody owes the Sheik $150,000. That's crazy. But otherwise than that,
to Ric Flair, and to, even though I may need him one day, Johnny the Dickhead Ace, fuck you both for your political bullshit. I would also like to add Jerry Lawler, Bill Dundee, and Michael Hayes to this list too, just because you all really suck.
You know what? Now everybody's out there saying, well, Cornette's the king of bridge burning. But, hey, look at that lineup there. That there may be some reason why Sabu was not booked steadily in the last 20 years.
To Vince McMahon.
No, I'm sorry, we left Vince out.
Believe it or not, I won't say fuck you to you.
Oh.
Vince, because you never really said anything to my face that was actually not somewhat professional. You have done a lot for this business that I love, and given a lot of my friends work. So for all of this, I do have respect for you. I will say this, though. You always shook my hand like a short bus meathead, almost pulling my shoulder right out of the socket.
What the?
And finally, to the rest of you out there who have done me wrong.
Wait a minute. Hold on. For one thing, that's kind of, That's a little shady comment, the short bus meathead, which we all know. We had a phrase down south, which I will say this, and with the caveat that I encourage people not to say this anymore, because it is rude and it makes fun of kids that can't, defend themselves or whatever. But retard strength is what he's talking about. It's what they used to call it when I was a kid in school and down south. And Vince does not do the bullshit wrestling handshake. He does a fucking handshake, and it's one of those I like to show you that I'm a alpha male type of guy handshakes, but he's not going to rip anybody's arm out with it. Shake hands with Billy Gunn. I encourage Sabu to shake hands with Billy Gunn and see what you draw back. It might be a shriveled fucking broken lump. He's got a firm handshake, and he's still not going to jerk anybody's shoulder out. But unfortunately, Sabu came from the 90s era of guys in the locker rooms where that fucking little thumb and middle finger handshake, the limp dish rag, the fucking, hey, I'm smart, I'm with it. That type of handshake went around amongst the boys, and all of a sudden, it was like shaking hands with a goddamn bunch of butterflies. And what the fuck's going on here? It was so stupid because the same thing as the whole handshake business anyway, as it was taken by a modern generation who didn't understand it and twisted to serve their own purposes. I've said this a million times. I'll say it again. You did not, in the territory days, walk in the building if you were the referee or the head of the ring crew or the guy selling T-shirts and immediately shake hands with everybody up to and including the owner of the fucking company and the booker if they were over in a corner having a meeting and you walked up and fucking interrupted that just to let them know that you were in the building, you wouldn't be in the building long. But now everybody's got to shake everybody's hand, or goddamn, that's the same thing as fucking committing sedition and treason. If you miss a hand, it's the same thing with the fucking goofy working handshake. It used to be the guys shook hands in a semi-normal fashion, a little bit light, because that was the deal. And some guys took it a little further than, the old handsome Jimmy thing. He'd put out his 2 forefingers and his thumb, right? Hey, brother, because that fit his gimmick. But most of the time, the guys shook hands slightly light, but just to get the picture across. The whole origination of that was guys who were smart to the business, who were workers. When you met people, if you shook hands with them and they shook hands stiff, then they weren't smart to the business. But it was a communication between people who were smart back in those days, where they would do the light handshake and give the little office Iggy, squeeze, squeeze, and you'd know you were dealing with one of the boys. It was a kayfabe thing. Well, then somehow they started reading about this on the internet when that became a thing, and decided that everybody was going to slip you a hand like it was a goddamn limp dick after an orgy, and you were getting splooge on your fucking palms. And that got ridiculous. And then some of the guys started going the other direction, fed up with this ridiculous, fictitious ghost handshake, and started trying to crank on people. But Vince has a very firm handshake, and that's the way he likes it back. I suggest giving it to him.
And finally, to the rest of you out there that done me wrong, and to all you trolls on the internet, F you. And that is apparently the closing chapter of Sabu's autobiography.
A pithy read.
That's right.
Cause for some reflection in there. What's the underlying meaning? Does it encourage modern society to continue in the way it has, or does it encourage you to reflect and possibly change the pattern of society? This is a deep read, one that will be talked about and critiqued for many years in various universities and colleges of higher learning.
Well, Jim, whether you're someone getting a extra hard handshake where you feel like your shoulder's about to be pulled out of the socket, or a wrestler told to hold a chair in front of your face so someone could do an Arabian moonsault right onto it, you may be in pain the next day.
That's true. because a lot of that stuff hurts. It's not supposed to, but it does. And folks, if you're in pain, not mental pain, we can't help you with that, this particular product. So if you're watching some modern wrestling and your head hurts in that way, we can't help you. But if you've got physical pain, the folks at Omax have you covered. Folks, we've talked about the Cryofreeze roll-on, the pain relief roll-on. It's so popular. It relieves joint pain, muscle soreness and aches from exercising and etc. Well, now the folks at Omax have come out with the Cryofreeze Advanced Joint Defense. It's a one-a-day supplement with the hemp-derived CBD and a proven ingredient called NEM that relieves joint discomfort and soreness in 7 days or less. You just take one of these capsules in the morning when you get up, and in 7 days or less, you're going to start feeling better on a regular basis. Of course, if you still bang yourself with some kind of pickaxe or something, you're going to want the Cryofreeze roll-on. But if you're dropping one of these bad boys once a day, you notice it without having to apply any creams or roll-ons or ointments or potions or the like. And right now, if you go to Omax, that's O-M-A-X, omaxhealth.com, and enter the code JCE, then you can get 20% off Omax Cryofreeze Advanced Joint Defense and any of the other products site-wide. And Stacy just reordered for her mother, who's had a hip replacement, a knee replacement. As a matter of fact, not only is the heating pad helping, but she's ordered some more roll-on for herself for the back situation. Of course, that's going to require further intervention, but it helps. Basically, if you're sore or achy for any reason, go to omaxhealth.com and get 20% off anything on the whole site by using the code omaxhealth.com, enter code JCE. How much more can we help people, Brian?
Well, Jim, let's get some more questions here on the show. And this next one, another very popular topic, sent to CornyDriveThru at gmail.com from Chuck in Long Island, New York. Happy New Year to you both. I wanted to get your thoughts on the recent news that the Pro Wrestling Torch let Bruce Mitchell go after a column he posted on John Huber's death that suggested that AEW was covering up the fact that he actually died of COVID-19. Wade Keller put out a statement stating that besides the fact that Bruce had little evidence to back it up, the column also didn't go through the normal vetting and editing process.
Yeah, yada, 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 yank me, pull me.
I guess that's the big question there, and a lot of people have sent in questions. Bruce Mitchell, 30 years with the Pro Wrestling Torch, no longer with the Pro Wrestling Torch.
Wait, it's 30 years with it's 30 years with IBM, and all they gave him was a wristwatch. 30 years of writing for a cheap knockoff publication that later became a cheap knockoff website for a guy just like him that likes to manufacture crises. And this is what I was talking about here, because I knew somebody was going to ask about it, because so many people have. I knew you were going to bring it up. What I had to think about it, or what I had to say about it. And basically, here's another guy that I've been saying for 25 years was a lying sack of shit. And now people have just figured out that he was a lying sack of shit. So am I surprised? No. I'm surprised it took this long. Bruce Mitchell has for a long time thought that he was either Bob Woodward or Carl Bernstein or some kind of crusading reporter. And what he does is he takes some issue and he figures out some reason why somebody should be outraged or upset about it, whether there is any reason or not, and whether the facts fit that, and then he crusades against it. And that's the same reason that I haven't spoken to him in 25 years, and that's the same reason that most people don't speak to him, or you said the vetting processes. Like the Pro Wrestling Torch is the New York Times or the Washington Post or NBC News or Newsweek magazine or whatever the case. I guarantee you, Wade Keller liver lip laganted him. He'd read the thing beforehand. If he hadn't read it, he didn't care what Bruce Mitchell said, because Bruce Mitchell is the only person for the past 30 years that's been able to tolerate Wade Keller. Because Wade Keller gave Bruce Mitchell a platform to fabricate shit and make up manufactured crises. And those crises led people to read Wade Keller's fucking Red Scare website. They deserve each other. But another person that I said was a piece of shit for 25 years, suddenly everybody in unison says, hey, this guy's a piece of shit. How could we have known? I read this column. And at first, going into it, for the first half of it, I'm like, what the fuck? Why is anybody upset? It sounds like Brody Lee's press agent wrote this. The most glowing review of the guy as a person and as a talent and everything he had done. And then when he takes the left turn, then I realized, yeah, he got everybody. He hooks everybody with all these nice things he's saying about this guy and praising him. And we're all together in this. He's on our side, right? And then he branches off into lunacy. Lunacy. After he praises the guy to the heavens, he then says, but AEW and WWE had already been compromising pandemic health standards by gathering in Florida to even have events. It's no secret that both companies, WWE in particular, have not been transparent as to the consequences to the people involved of even putting on these shows. What the fuck? The reason why I'm sure they came out and even qualified the reason why Brody Lee passed away by saying it was a non-COVID related issue is because since that's been the big news for the past year, one would think that if you hear about anybody dying, unless they're hit by a truck, it's COVID. So they specifically said that so people would at least know that much. But otherwise, the guy had asked, he didn't have any publicity on this. The guy had asked, don't make a big deal out of it. The guy's wife wants to be, I'm sure, even more private right now than this whole thing has been to begin with. And for the kids and everything else. And then this fucking weasel tries to start a crusade that somehow AEW should come clean and tell the entire story and all the guy's medical details because he equates this to the WWE reaction after the Chris Benoit murder-suicide for a strong, irresponsible example. That's a quote of wrestling companies covering up health risk involved in the lifestyles and standards the business often requires. What the fuck is he talking about? This doesn't apply to this poor guy. He actually, and I'm reading some of this because I want you to know what kind of a fucking Weasley prick this guy is. He talks about Brody Lee's wife issuing a statement thanking the doctors and the Mayo Clinic and etc., and that he died after a hard-fought battle with a non-COVID related lung issue. And Mitchell says that leaves the issue, though, of why Brody Lee, his family, and AEW kept such a tight lid on information during his illness. Because it wasn't none of your fucking business. And then he goes on to say that, well, people who have had COVID-19 have gotten lung damaged that remained after the virus had left their system. Could this be what his wife meant, that he had already recovered from a bout and was then suffering for this lung issue? Why the fuck would it be any of your business? And that's specifically what they didn't say to begin with. And who gives a fuck? How is this the time for this? You piece of shit weasel. And he goes on for paragraph after paragraph, belaboring these people for not being more transparent and that there's some cover-up going on here and that the whole company and everybody involved in this is obviously part of a goddamn public health crisis conspiracy. The closing paragraph. Whatever the circumstances, Brody Lee's family and AEW both would serve his memory best by being forthright, whatever they are. This is poorly written anyway. About all the circumstances surrounding his death, thereby honoring him by allowing us all to make the best informed decisions possible, protecting everyone's health. What decisions protecting our health are we going to make or not make, because we don't know Brody Lee's medical history. The poor guy died. Leave him alone. Leave his wife alone. You fucking idiot. You self-absorbed, self-righteous, fucking fictitious crusader, you. I loathe you. So he's doing the same shit he's been doing for 25 years, but now finally everybody was like, you know what? This fucking guy, fuck him. And when you get fired off the pro wrestling torch, for God's sake, the journalistic standards that they uphold, good fucking God.
Did you see his wife, Brody Lee's wife, put out
I've never seen Bruce Mitchell's wife. I don't believe that exists.
Brody Lee's wife put out a statement. Several people retweeted it. Cash Wheeler retweeted it, I saw. Basically, just explaining what she's been going through, and then it addressed this. So it did get to her. It did impact her. And I think that's what's really unfair about this whole thing. Why should she have to deal with...
Yeah, she had to put out a statement defending her decision not to fucking tell the world that her husband was in the hospital on the verge of death because he didn't want people to know that. For fuck's sake. You know how you're going to know when I'm dead? You won't ever hear of me or see of me ever again, but I ain't going to make a goddamn announcement. Well, I guess I wouldn't make one anyway. I'm going to encourage there not to be any announcements made. Just all the, where's Cornette? We haven't seen him lately.
And I'll say this too, in terms of the way AEW handled this, there's a lot we could say about AEW's booking and talent or whatever it may be. I think Tony Khan did a fantastic job with honoring Brody Lee on that episode they did. And obviously he has been working with the family for a few months. They kept this quiet, which is remarkable in the wrestling business.
Yeah. And we mentioned that. That's the biggest tribute of all, that everybody liked this guy so much. In wrestling, they kept a secret. They honored this guy's wishes and tried to protect his family. And that's amazing. And somebody said, "Oh, Cornette, now you got to cut a promo because they signed Brody Lee Jr. to a contract. He's 8 years old. What about that? You're going to cut a promo?" Well, no, I'm not going to cut a promo on that. He's not going to be wrestling next week on the fucking program. Here's another thing that they did, and Tony Khan should be complimented for, or saluted for. If they signed his 8-year-old son to a contract, and I believe I even saw the comment that if he chooses to become a wrestler, then we'll be here for him. Well, he's 8 years old, and fucking hopefully 14 years when he finishes college, who knows whether there's going to be wrestling or not, much less any specific company. But if they signed him to a contract, especially if there's some type of cash payment, not big payment, but a check that can be put in an account, a trust fund for the kid, for his education, whatever, and then he can decide years from now when he's an adult if he wants to be a wrestler, that kind of contract that ain't going to hurt a billionaire, yeah, sign the kid to a contract. What's wrong with that? That doesn't mean he's going to be wrestling next Wednesday on the fucking program. So I think that's another thing that that AEW ought to be applauded for doing something for the family. And I guess they probably announced it because the kid, it'll give the kid a bigger kick. I don't know that Vince McMahon would ever do something like that. I know he wouldn't announce it. He probably wouldn't do it.
Well, I know a lot of people are probably wondering about your thoughts on the AEW tribute episode. You actually didn't watch it. You had a period of time where you tried to avoid any active wrestling.
Yes, and here's the thing. It's on the DVR. I haven't watched it. I've had a busy couple of weeks, as we talked about, but also I said I wasn't going to watch any wrestling, and that's a no-win situation. I even said on where we talked about his passing, I said they can do whatever they want on their television program. I don't care. I'm not going to critique it. I'm not going to take the piss out of it. I can do that on regular programs all day long. I'm not going to critique their tribute program.
Well, what I was going to say is there were a lot of really, really touching moments in that episode. I thought, again, I think Tony Khan and AEW did a beautiful job paying tribute to Brody Lee with that episode. It's tough to mix the tribute stuff with trying to actually have a wrestling show in the midst of that. And I thought they did a great job, but to your earlier point.
Well, yeah, and let me just say that I may watch it at some point, but especially over the last couple of weeks, I didn't want to watch any more sad tribute stuff, for anybody.
To your earlier point, Brody Lee's son was sitting ringside, and they let him get involved in what I thought wasn't anything bad. And then at the end of the show, he was in the ring. And that was one of the big takeaways, was how much this all meant to his son. In a lot of ways, this show was on TV. This show was for the wrestlers who were grieving, the wrestling fans who were grieving, and it was a big topic amongst wrestling fans. But I actually saw this tribute episode as being for his son as much as anybody. And again, Tony Khan and AEW did a great job, and it's a shame that not only did Bruce Mitchell write that column, but he doubled down and tripled down and quadrupled down on defending it, even after Wade Keller pulled it down.
They took it off the Torch site, and Wade dumped him, and I heard he went and printed it somewhere else and defended, no, this was good, this should have been done. Yeah.
And then reportedly he deleted his Twitter.
Oh, I hate to hear that.
How does it feel to you when someone you have, hate is a strong word, but someone you have hated for 25 years, when all of a sudden everyone catches up to you?
I just wonder why it took so long for people to realize this, because his writing has always been the same thing. Find some reason for somebody to be outraged about something, whether it exists or not, and then fire everybody up. And for a while, people bought it. But, unfortunately, Bruce Mitchell is just a fucking mealy-mouthed, disreputable-looking boy. I know he's the same. He's younger than me. He looks like he's goddamn decomposing as we speak. And he has for a long time. And he's a little fucking weasel that fucking wanders around and hides in the corners and tries to figure out a way to knock people. And I'm glad that now people are fucking figuring this out.
Well, Jim, our next question, sent to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com, from Monsoon's external occipital protuberance. But it relates to the Brody Lee tribute episode. Regarding the AEW Brody Lee tribute Dynamite episode, when the former Eric Rowan made his surprise run-in, Jericho's reaction on commentary was, "It's the former Bludgeon brother Eric Rowan," which is a believable reaction to a surprise. All the while, the masked man, Excalibur, interrupts with, "It's Eric Redbeard," assuming the audience knows who that is. Would you know if there are any legal ramifications using the phrases Eric Rowan and Bludgeon Brothers, which I assume WWE is trademark, and that was really the issue? Jericho went right at and called him the name that everyone would know him as, and Excalibur went right to, we got to make sure we change this a little bit, because
right to be in a mark in his basement, like he always does. Here's the thing. First of all, no, Jericho's smarter than that. There's no legal repercussions. He said that's the former so-and-so, which that's a factual statement, and they're not advertising someone as that. They're the FKA, formerly known as, right?
Well, I don't know if he said that every time. To be fair, I haven't gone back and watched it again.
Once you say it in context, it's not an actionable thing. I mean, we could get Stephen P. New on the phone, but we're splitting nits here. We're picking hairs and splitting nits. Here's the thing. Excalibur goes straight to speaking to people like himself, an obsessed mark, not even an individual in the wrestling business, but on the periphery of the wrestling business, who was self-taught and who speaks like he speaks to other marks in their basements who have no other lives but to know all these Japanese names, these goofy fucking moves. And so he immediately goes to a guy's name that he used on the indies fucking 15 years ago and nobody fucking knows. Whereas Jericho, is that a particularly mellifluous or flowing way to react to a surprise? Why, it's the former Bludgeon brother Eric Rowan, or is it, would you say, well, look who that, identify the guy first by who he is in the context of the situation. My God, that's one of Brody Lee's best friends. his former tag team partner. He doesn't even wrestle here in AEW. You may know him as so-and-so. Don't just blurt out either one, because then if it's a surprise, you wouldn't have a prepared legal statement. Well, that is the former bludgeon, and you also wouldn't use a fucking name that nobody knows who the fuck it is. See what I'm saying? If they knew he was coming, which they obviously did, plan for that and make it unfold more naturally.
And I will say that was one of the highlights of that tribute episode. It was, I thought, really well done, very touching. But can you see, even with Vince McMahon hating any competition whatsoever, could you actually see him calling Jerry McDevitt or someone calling Jerry McDevitt about this on a tribute episode?
No.
Right? Yeah.
No. I mean, if it was... Now, having said that, if it was a goddamn major star of the level of Steve Austin or somebody like that, which they don't have any more of anyway, but if in that case, he'd be calling Jerry McDevitt if it was Steve Austin on Mother Teresa's fucking tribute show.
Our next question, Jim, sent to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com from Charlie in Starkville, Mississippi.
I knew it. Brand new decade, but the same old under-the-table dealings. Shenanigans.
Oh, here's one question about this guy, and there's another one here, too. What are your thoughts on the reports that Matt Riddle just signed a new 3-year, $400,000 per year contract with $50,000 bonuses for every match he works in Saudi Arabia?
Oh, God. I heard, or I didn't hear, but I read something on one of the articles that have been retweeted that they had to talk him into it. I know a lot of people see something in this guy. I like the fight pit match he had, but do you see a fucking superstar in this guy?
You know, it's weird for me because for a long time before I ever saw him, I heard all sorts of things. From he's a potential superstar to he's fantastic to
I heard all that.
He reminds me of Kerry Von Erich. I mean,
I heard that from somebody.
I heard all sorts of things. I think he's good.
Yeah.
But I do not, and I could be proven wrong, but I do not see him at that level of star that other people have so far. And it's only based on what I've seen of him in NXT and a little bit on the main roster.
You know what? Think about this. He's like a modern day Johnny B. Bad. Think about this now.
That's pretty rough.
No, he's good to have on the card. He can have an exciting match. People will cheer for him. Put him in a main event and get him to try to do a serious fucking promo. Put him in a money match and try to get him to do somebody else's match besides his own shit. You're lost. I see him as a guy on the card. I don't see him as a main event guy. That they didn't used to put that much effort into talking people into signing with them, especially when where else is he going to go to AEW? Well, good. They've already established they could hand them fucking anybody and it wasn't going to make any difference. And he probably would fit in with those goofballs in AEW because.
And he owns his name. It's his real name. So, I mean, actually, It's good for that.
I know he's got a shoot MMA background and he's a legitimate athlete. And also another thing about him that's legitimate is he reminds me of Darby Allin. He looks like and acts like he legitimately is goofy. And when I try to like some of his matches, he does that goofy shit and he has that weird way of walking and the fucking promos with the bro.
He's stoned. He's a pothead.
Well, yeah, and I'm not fucking intrigued by a fucking guy that can't be bothered to get in a fucking fight and get upset, cut a promo and things and such and carrying on. He's on the card. So, but if he's at 400, is he in NXT or is he on the main roster these days? Is he still in NXT?
He's on the main roster. If you remember the last we had heard about him, the last we had talked about him here on the show, Vince McMahon made the edict to drop the name Matt. He was just
That's right.
Riddle.
He's just Riddle. He just Riddle, and then later he'll be Joker, and then later he'll be Penguin. So I guess now we'd have $400,000 for a guy on the main roster? Fuck. I'm glad I'm not quitting my day job, if that's all it is.
Well, let me ask you a follow-up. This is another email sent to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com from Andrew in Cleveland. Recently, Hulk Hogan gave his thoughts on who he sees as the next breakout star in WWE and mentioned that he sees Matt Riddle, or Riddle, as the next big thing. Hulk mentioned a similar comment back in 2015 about Kevin Owens being the next top guy. My question is, does Jim agree with the Hulkster? And furthermore, does Jim think Hogan is a credible source for identifying the next big thing based on today's ring work, promo, and overall presentation format? I personally say no. And then here's the exact quote from Hulk Hogan. Right now, there's another guy that's stumbling into the situation. Acting like he doesn't know what's going on, but he's smart as hell. That's the bro. I've been watching him, and he's really got good instincts. He's really got a good aptitude for understanding what needs to be done. It's all about instincts and timing. His timing is off a little, but it's starting to come each and every week. So, he would be the next one I'd put my money on.
I can only presume that Hogan was asked about him in some interview and decided, well, I'll praise him because that way they'll quote me on this interview, and like we're doing now. And then probably as soon as somebody mentioned another name to him, he's, oh, that guy's great also. I don't know. I don't have any idea. Riddle is what Riddle is. He's a guy on the card. I thought he had a lot of potential at first, and the more I saw him, the more I'm like, this don't translate as anything, but he's a modern day Johnny B. Bad, this fucking bro, I don't give a shit, I'm stoned fucking gimmick. Only gonna go so far. It's like, at least he's a legitimate athlete, and he doesn't do matches with the Invisible Man or stick his hands in his pockets, but really, when you think about it, pockets is just that turned up to 1,000. Why would you want to see a guy fight that can't be bothered to get mad enough to actually try to have a fight and fucking trash talk somebody and sound like they mean it? I don't get it.
Well, Jim, our next question sent to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com from Bruce Walmer in Springfield, Massachusetts. This is another one that suddenly has become a popular topic. I'm going to assume it's because of the recent appearance of Vince McMahon on TV. My question for Jim, you have the deciding vote as to who should take over for Vince when he steps down. Shane McMahon or Triple H? If you have another suggestion, I would love to hear it. And like I said, we've received several questions about who takes over after Vince, a flood of them since his recent appearance on TV.
Well, let's just, I could say, well, I'd like Bobby Fulton to get it. That would be great. But let's stick with what's realistically going to happen. And that's Triple H. He's going to get it. Because that way Stephanie can kind of have it, but doesn't really have it. And Shane at one point wanted it, then stepped away from the company. I haven't had a heart-to-heart talk with him about what his ambitions are, but I don't know that he wants it now. At one point 20 years ago, Shane wanted to be just like his dad. Shane, as I've mentioned, is the McMahon I like the most. Nicest guy, great guy just as a guy, right? As a person. I think he was disappointed when he saw that Vince, because here's the problem. Shane didn't get the wrestling mind. I don't think, as evidenced by his announcing. And remember, I was his practice partner and broadcast partner, that little announcing stint he had. We did a lot more practicing than ever made the air. He didn't naturally, he got the big picture stuff from Vince. He wanted to buy the UFC. He could visualize big companies, big promotions. He got the big picture stuff, but he didn't get the minute granular detail of the inside of the mentality and the psychology of the wrestling business from studying it like Triple H did, because Triple H had to. Shane was in the family and going to school, and nobody was going to smarten Vince McMahon's kid up to the real wrestling business, because that would contradict some of the things that Vince was teaching him. So err on the side of safety and just don't have any deep conversations with the kid. That's not just with Shane or Stephanie, that's with any promoter's son, right? Most of the time. Shane he didn't have a wrestling mind. Stephanie, I'm not saying Stephanie did, but I think she was more of the kind of creative that Vince wanted. And then, of course, soon as she gets, mixed up with, as soon as she starts a relationship with Triple H, say what you want about him, but he's a goddamn, student of the business and understood wrestling and psychology, both in the ring, in matches, and obviously in the locker room. He really understood the wrestling business, because look where he is. So of the three, and only one of those three is ever going to get control of the WWE unless Vince sells it before he dies, or unless they turn around and sell it right after he dies. And of the three, Shane, Stephanie, Triple H, it's got to be Triple H. He's the guy that's qualified. I'm not saying there's not people anywhere in the world that might be more qualified, although these days you'd have to look hard. 15, 20 years ago, there was a number of people. Now there's very few. But realistically, it's still a family business, and that's where it's going.
You gotta wonder if it bothers Shane, because I remember that brief period of time where Vince tried to play nice with everyone because WCW was kicking his ass, and all of a sudden he appeared at the Cauliflower Alley Club to get an award, and Lou Thez gives him an award, and he's like, I had the pleasure of working for your father, I had a pleasure of working for you, I don't know if I'll have the pleasure of working for Shane, and it's Shane standing there. That was what everyone thought. Shane was going to take over.
Yeah. And he did too.
And it's never going to happen, more than likely.
And that's the thing. I feel bad, but the thing is, Shane actually went out and did his own thing. That's when he left, when he saw that it was not going to come to pass, that he was going to be the next Vince. That's when he went out and did his own shit, because he had his own wife, his own kids, he wanted to do his own shit, and he had the money to. I don't know if we've talked about this lately, but not only did Shane obviously grow up in the McMahon family and, not want for much, but his wife, Marissa, her maiden name was Mazzola, as in fucking corn oil and margarine. She was already from a wealthy family. And so he was able to go out, but he, went out and did his own thing and hasn't had to rely on the family business, although he comes back to it as a performer because he likes doing that shit. When I saw him at the Hall of Fame 3 years ago, I said, are you going to take it? Because he had just had that. No, he hadn't had surgery yet. He had the hernia. He was working with a hernia, right? That match. And then he was going to have it fixed. I believe that's somewhere. The point is, at that point, he was almost 50. And he's in great shape, but his kids were running around, and I said, "Be careful." I said, "Doing all these taking these bumps and things." He said, "It does get harder." I said, "Shit, you know shit, right?" I said, "Don't fucking kill yourself." And then he either went out and took another big bump and then went and had surgery to fix his shit, or took the bump and caused it and had surgery to fix it. I can't remember what the story was.
Jim, our next question sent to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com from Jason. What is the origin of the 10-bell salute? I assume the way we know it now is a WWE thing. I can't see it in the territories, a promoter bringing out all the heels and baby faces to stand shoulder to shoulder in unison, even if it was to honor a fallen wrestler. Also, what would happen in a territory if a current wrestler on the roster passed? Would it be just an announcement, a moment of silence, ring the bell without bringing out the roster? So there it is, Jim, the question about the 10-bell salute and how promotions dealt with wrestlers passing away in the past.
Well, the 10-bell salute is not just a wrestling thing, right? Don't they do it in boxing also? I believe I've seen footage. Basically, I've not been at a live boxing event when it's happened. I've been at too many wrestling events when it's happened. But the 10-bell salute is decades and decades and decades old. I don't know how old. It's to honor of, either a current wrestler or even a former wrestler in that territory that might have passed away. Like, for example, if one of the biggest stars in Florida died, they probably wouldn't announce it in New York. But if a guy who had been I'm sure they probably announced in the Garden when Rocca died, did they not? They would have had to.
They would have had to. It was all over the programs at the Garden, so I would think they would announce it. And he had been the commentator there right before he died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, also, biggest attraction. And well, they didn't have a wrestling event there at the time, but when Bruno passed away, he made the Madison Square Garden marquee as an all-time Garden legend, not just wrestling legend. And the 10-bell salute is the talent never used to come out. That's a modern thing. It used to be that the ring announcer would get in the ring and announce the passing and ask everybody to observe a moment of silence for this 10-bell salute. And they'd do the 10-bell salute, ding, ding, ding. And then everybody would, applaud afterwards or, whatever noise they wanted to make. And then in the modern times, it's come that we're all going to come out together when they've dropped any pretense, because obviously you're right. The heels and baby faces couldn't come out together. The people in the building, even Brian, they don't understand that not only has the business changed, but the way the fans look at it has changed. Even in a situation like that, where there was a death, if the baby faces and heels had come out and stood together, I mean, you would have had a variety of responses, but a lot of them would have been booing, walking out, shitting on the whole thing, laughing. Look, they're all together.
The other thing is about heels. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm trying to remember which story I'm thinking of, but was it Bobby Shane when they announced his death? The fans cheered?
I was about to get there. Besides the fact that the people would have possibly asked for their money back if they'd have seen the babyface and the heels standing there together and left. I wasn't there for the Shane announcement. I heard about that, but I was in the Louisville Gardens when they announced that Sam Bass had been killed the night before in the car wreck, or 2 nights before. I believe they were in Memphis on a Sunday. And people know this, Sam Bass at the time had been Jerry Lawler's manager. It was the summer of 1976. I think Lawler had just worked with Harley Race in a Southern title match that night in Memphis. Anyway, Sam Bass, Pepe Lopez, and Frank Hester, who were wrestling as the Dominoes, were driving back to Nashville. And Sam Bass was noted for driving 100 miles an hour. And they got to Dixon, Tennessee, and they came around one of the bend on I-40, and there had been a wreck where I guess I can't remember exactly what caused it, but maybe a drunk driver had run into or somehow collided with a tractor trailer truck, and that truck was turned sideways on the road. And when they came around the bend, they were going fast and plowed right into it. Boom. And they called the Highway Patrol, State Police got there, and they saw wrestling bags and wrestling tights and everything just strewn all over the side of the road. And it's Tennessee in the 70s. They knew the wrestlers. They were coming up that road every week, multiple times, right? So they called Jerry Jarrett in Hendersonville, and he was worried that Lawler might have been, and that Lawler ended up not riding with them. I believe either David Schultz or Phil Hickerson rode to Jackson with them. May have been Hickerson. And he said when he got out of the car, he kissed the ground, and Sam took off again. But anyway, Jarrett thought it was Lawler. Oh, shit, because Lawler drove 100 miles an hour in those days, too. And when they got down there, then they realized it was Sam and the Dominoes. But point being, they announced that at that Tuesday night at the Louisville Gardens, Lawler was in the main event. Sam Bass was supposed to be there with him. I think it was Johnny Randolph at the time, who was a wacky radio DJ. And he got in the ring and announced, ladies and gentlemen, night before last in Dixon, Tennessee, there was a car accident, and Sam Bass has been killed. That place popped. The cheer. My mom got goosebumps. She was like, that's because she knew that people believed it, but that's stiff, right? They cheered. And actually later on, Christine Jarrett said that probably would have been music to Sam Bass's ears, that he would hear that he had made such an impression on those people and did his job that well. But yeah, if you were a heel, I mean, they didn't talk about Hester and Pepe Lopez because they were masked guys, the Dominoes. It came out in the newspaper, but they didn't announce it then because they'd just been there a few weeks. They were underneath guys. People wouldn't have felt strongly one way or the other, but they felt they had to explain Sam Bass. And the response to Sam Bass's death was overwhelmingly positive, which shows how much heat he had at the fucking time. And that was not limited to this one instance in that one city. When a lot of people heard that something bad had happened to the Heels, and even, I mean, you know, people, oh, that was 45 years ago. Remember when Gino died in 86?
February 86.
The story went around that maybe Chris Adams had something to do with it because they had just done a deal where Gino had blinded Chris Adams and they were wondering if Adams had gotten even.
Yeah.
And now, you know, so people are thinking now, this is the way it was.
Those fans in Texas were the same ones that when Kerry got busted in 83 for drugs at the airport, they thought the Freebirds planted the drugs on him.
Yes, the Freebirds planted those drugs on Kerry to get him in trouble because that no good Michael Hayes, and it didn't help that one of the fucking Star Wars shows, I don't know if it was a Christmas night at Reunion Arena, but it was at Reunion Arena, and it was during the Freebirds and the Von Erichs deal, and the Freebirds have jumped into the ring in street clothes, or at least Buddy Roberts was still in street clothes, and they were kicking the shit out of the Von Erichs, getting heat on them, and Buddy sits down in the middle of the ring and pulls his cowboy boot off so he could fucking whack the Von Erichs over the head with the boot, and an ounce of weed fell out of his boot right in the middle of the ring in front of 20,000 people. And he just grabbed it and shoved it in his fucking pocket and kept hitting him with the cowboy boot. So, the Freebirds planted those drugs on the Von Erichs. Everybody knows the boys wouldn't do that. That's the way that the fans viewed the situation back then. And now people think I'm fucking lying and bullshitting when I tell this, and I'm just reporting the fucking facts. Yes, when Heels got killed, fans cheered because they deserved it in their minds.
You know, when we just talked about Brody Lee on the Omnibus, we talked about the idea we can't remember the last time something like this happened. Minus accident, car accident.
Oh, God.
Crash, minus drug addiction. When was the last time something like this happened? And a lot of people said Eddie Guerrero, but again, Eddie wasn't always the healthiest.
I saw that. And boy, people's cognitive ability, sometimes what we said was, can you remember any time that this happened past an accident or substance abuse or some sudden occurrence? We were talking about an illness that someone got while they were still on top as an active professional wrestler, got an illness and it was kept from the public and nobody knew they were sick until they died shortly afterwards. That was how we quantified that, right? And that still, no, Eddie Guerrero, yes, had a heart attack in his hotel room. It wasn't directly linked. He had sobered up and was on the wagon, but obviously, you know, you don't have a heart attack at 30 something unless you've done something to weaken that muscle, but still that's a sudden occurrence rather than an illness that nobody knew was taking place. It's where we're trying to go with all that.
I thought of one the other day.
Okay.
And it's one of the more mysterious ones because no one knows exactly. There are different stories and different rumors about when this guy died, but I actually think it happened within 2 months of his last territory appearance. Pak Song Nam.
That's right.
Because he was wrestling in Texas in, I think, September of 80, and I think he died just a couple months later. And, you know, it was a little bit off the radar because it wasn't like a big announcement across the world, and people still don't know exactly when he died, but I think it was in 1980, and he had just been wrestling, and he'd been a pretty big star just a few years before that.
The Korean Assassin.
Yeah.
And he looked, how can I say this without offending the family if they're listening? If the family of Pak Song Nam is listening after all these years, but he looked bad when he was wrestling. He looked in strange health. And I mean, yes, he had, for the folks who don't know who we're talking about, there was a giant Korean fellow named Pak Song that had a pituitary gland issue like Andre, like a Big Show had and got corrected early in his life. Like he had like the angels of wrestling in the 40s. He had the giant face, the giant hands and feet. He was big like Baba, the giant. he looked somewhat like Baba, except his body was even thinner and his extremities were even larger in relation. And you didn't see many, 6'5" or 6 or 7 Koreans back in those days. But even though physically he wasn't a bodybuilder, he had just a freaky, weird look, and he looked like he was dangerous and drew some money for quite a period of time. And then suddenly, boom, disappeared, like you said, and nobody ever really found out exactly what. But was it some kind of, I heard maybe some kind of leukemia or cancer or bone disease or something at one point?
I'm not exactly sure, and that's where I say there's some confusion. No one's exactly sure. I heard that it was also a direct relation of what he had, which wasn't acromegaly, but it was something along those lines. No one's exactly sure, but again, he was a part of the Dusty Rhodes babyface turn.
Yeah.
A big deal. Wrestling in 1980 in Dallas for the Dallas office, which was still a major office, even though a smaller territory. All of a sudden, he's off the cards. All of a sudden, he's passed away.
And Gary Hart got a ton of mileage out of him because Gary Hart loved the foreigners and loved the mysterious Far East and loved the gimmicks that he could flesh out in his mind and drop little things in the interviews and everything. And he's the one that gave because it was just Pak Song in most territories, but when he was with Gary, it was Pak Song Nam, which just kind of made him sound even weirder. Which, after the way he looked, you didn't need much help. But yeah, and remember honestly, that was an example of you could feed people shit. He did the Baba chops to the head. And as I recall, they didn't look the most convincing in the world.
Either did Baba's.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. But Pak Song's, but because of they had that head that was 2 feet high and those giant hands on those long, skinny arms, it worked, and people sold it.
All right, Jim, let's get another question in. This one sent to CornyDriveThru at gmail.com from Stephen Powell. Happy New Year to you both. I've seen a top 10 list that was made by What Culture of boring wrestlers, and it pissed some people off. I found it to be funny and kind of accurate. I was wondering what your thoughts are on the list. Can I read you this list, Jim?
Read me the list.
Number 10, the most boring wrestlers of 2020, King Corbin.
The Possum King, the Grand Marshal of the WWE Possum Day Parade. I can't argue too much with that.
Number 9, Chris Statlander.
Oh, gosh, she was the space alien.
Yes.
Wasn't she that landed from the planet Zambodia or the, outer galactic... Maybe
the Andromeda Galaxy.
She came on the same spaceship that carried Baby Farts McGee's axe to South Park. When they stole all that space cash. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if boring or just stupid would be.
But that's the thing. I don't know if boring is the right word I would use for her.
Well, it wasn't boring. Wasn't she one of the ones that hurt Britt Baker? Wasn't she one of the ones that threw one of the girls on, or was she the girl that was thrown on Britt Baker?
No, they threw Nyla Rose on Britt Baker, I think.
Well, then who threw Nyla?
It may have been her, but then she tore her ACL.
Yeah, then she got hurt too. I guess it's not really boring when you can get fucking hospitalized at any moment when somebody's around.
I wouldn't put her on a boring list in any way.
Okay, well, let's scratch her off that list.
Bizarrely intriguing, maybe. Number 8, Kishida.
Oh, good Lord. No, he's not boring. The only boring thing about him is his wardrobe. I wish that he would just, somebody for Christmas maybe would get him some gear. But I don't think that he's boring. He does a lot. He's just the size of a small child, and he dresses like a guy that works at fucking Jiffy Lube. But he's not boring.
Number 7 is a wrestler I don't know if you've ever seen. From WWE, Mansoor.
Wait a minute. Are you talking about Mantar? I'll agree.
No. Mansoor.
Oh, I don't know. How sore is he?
He was a 205 Live regular, and then I don't know if he's from Saudi Arabia. Oh, no, he is. He's a Saudi Arabian, so they pushed him big on the Saudi Arabian shows. But I don't think you've ever seen him, if I had to take a guess. But he's number 7 on the list.
I bet he's pretty fucking boring.
Number 6, Ruby Riott.
Have we seen her anywhere do anything?
We've seen her a little bit every now and then on a WWE thing that we were forced to watch. She didn't stand out. I don't know if that classifies her as boring.
Well, but I don't remember talking about how bad she sucks, so that must mean that she's not as rotten as some of these girls. So I don't know. We'll have to withhold adjudication on that one.
Number 5, Tamina.
Well, what's her last name?
Snuka.
Oh, okay. I forgot.
Watch what you say, young man.
I forgot who she was. But wait a minute. I thought Nia Jax was related to Snuka.
No, Nia Jax is a cousin of The Rock's through marriage, I think.
Oh. So what's Tamina's story?
Tamina is the daughter of Jimmy Snuka. And I guess this may go to why she's boring. She's been there a while, and she just kind of doesn't stand out. She's just...
Wait a minute. Didn't we see her? And didn't I say something about she's related to Jimmy Snuka?
Possibly so.
Maybe. I don't know.
Well, number 4 on the list. Again, the 10 most boring wrestlers of 2020.
Apparently, this list is not that far off.
R-Truth.
Again, I wouldn't say boring. I like Ron Killings. Worked with him in TNA. Good wrestler, good athlete. Now, basically when I hear him or see him doing something, it's generally this 24/7 title where they're winning it in the fucking airport lounge and the shit house and the fucking peanut stand and whatever. So I wouldn't say boring, but oh, how the mighty have fallen. He's a former NWA champion, and now he's fighting over a phony wrestling belt. Not even a real wrestling belt, but a phony wrestling belt.
See, it's weird. I don't know if boring's the right word, but I groan whenever I see him because I know what it's going to be.
It's going to be stupid.
But does that mean I'm bored by it, or just that I don't like it?
I think disgusted and bored is two different things. Bored is like, oh, God, when will this be over? But disgusted is like, why are they letting this motherfucker do this shit?
Number 3 on the list, Jake Hager.
You know, that may be a proper classification for Hager, because he's just he is the Johnny Sameface of AEW. Remember, at first they introduced him like this MMA badass, and he came out like a fucking middle-aged yuppie with a fucking Izod shirt on, taking his kids to get ice cream. And you know, every once in a while you see flashes of what he could be with some coaching and somebody riding his ass, but, you know, otherwise he's just a big lug that's kind of fucking taking up some space.
Number 2 on the list, Hikaru Shida.
Well, I'll let you take that one, Brian, because you know my thoughts.
Well, but I don't know your thoughts in terms of boring. See, it's the term boring. It's not, do you like her? Do you think she's any good? Would you be booking her the way they're booking her? Is she boring?
Well, I can't even remember exactly which one she is.
Yes, you can. Stop that.
Well, I'm just trying to think.
You know, as I'm thinking of it, I actually think she may classify as boring.
That's what I'm saying. Is she the one that every match she has to fucking set a chair up at ringside and run and jump off the chair and make a big deal out of that?
I don't know. Does she do that?
There's one girl that does the chair spot constantly.
See, that's the thing. Like Riho, who we haven't seen in almost a year.
Oh, boy. And it's been a wonderful year besides the global plague.
Well, she'll be coming back.
It's been Riho-less.
She'll be back soon because apparently the promotion she works for in Japan is no longer using her because she's under contract to AEW, so they don't want to push her or do anything with her. But you don't like Riho. You can't say Riho was boring. Like, the term boring is the important thing here.
No, I would classify Riho more as pathetic.
Shida may be boring.
Shida may be boring.
Number 1. Do you have anyone you think will be number 1 on the most boring wrestlers of 2020 list? Based on the way this list has been structured so far.
Well, It has to be one of the WWE talents that takes 7 years to get to the ring on their entrance, and then
No, it's not Randy Orton.
why there's a number of talents up there that I've had been describing. It's but who also
I'm
is
gonna give
just
you a clue.
devoid of it? Okay, give me a clue.
I'm going to give you 2 clues. WWE, main roster, tag team. You can classify them technically as a tag team.
Is it the ones that we can't remember what their names are? Is it Marcel Marceau and Fabian Forte?
No, it's not main roster.
Oh, not the main. I thought you said main roster.
I said
that's
main
not
roster.
the main roster.
Yeah.
Okay, main roster. Oh, good Lord. It's not the crispy critter from Canyon Creek, a.k.a. The Fiend.
It's not the Fiend. Although will say, I do find his matches boring. Even with all the crazy, wacky bullshit that they have going on there.
Yeah. Jake Atlas.
Interesting pick, but not main roster.
Not main roster.
You don't seem to be grasping that part of it, so I will just give you the answer.
Just give me the goddamn answer. Why don't you just tell me the name of the movie you want to see?
The Miz and John Morrison.
Oh, man.
I said they could be classified as a tag team, main roster.
Yeah, well, I would never consider Morrison boring, but I would consider Miz any of those things. Boring, useless, pathetic, etc. But I would have not included Morrison as being, but I guess it's what they've done to him. He was a fine young man before they got a hold of him.
Well, I guess if you're put with a boring wrestler, if people think The Miz is boring, it would drag you down no matter what, wouldn't it?
That's true. Yes. The charisma sucking is stronger when your partner really is a black hole of charisma.
See, I wouldn't say he's a black hole of charisma. He has charisma. It's just, for some people, and at times
the wrong kind.
It's go away charisma. It's I need to stop watching this clown act like a wrestler charisma. Well, there it is.
Well, there you have it.
The 10 most boring wrestlers of 2020. You know, Jim, some people, when they see The Miz come out on TV with a microphone, they may say, I want to keep watching, but I should listen to something else.
They do not want to hear it. And unlike the studio audience in TBS in the 80s when Ole Anderson would cut a promo, instead of chanting over and over, we don't want to hear it, we don't want to hear it, just fix it where you can't hear it. Folks, every new year, all you hear about is New Year's resolutions, new habits, better habits, trying new things, new activities, new hobbies. I got something you can get right now that will make anything you do better. The wireless earbuds from Raycon. Whether you want to listen to something like directions for cooking in the kitchen, you got an audio book going while you're enjoying your favorite hobby, you're going for a workout and you got a playlist in your ear, or there's a significant other in your home that you do not want to listen to, whatever the case, a pair of the Raycon wireless earbuds will fix you right up. They make great sound accessible to everybody. These things start at half the price of those supposed premium audio brands. And I know, everybody knows that I'm not high tech, but I always wondered for so long why all these goofy people have these white things sticking out of their ears. I was like, what the fuck? Can all these people have ear infections? You're attracting attention to yourself in a negative fashion when you got shit hanging out of your ears in public. Well, you don't have to worry about that with the Raycons because they come in a range of stylish colors, but they have a comfortable in-ear fit, so you don't look like you've got a parking meter hanging out of the side of your head. And they've got 6 hours of playtime, water and sweat resistant. I don't plan to swim underwater, but I do sweat freely. They pair quickly and seamlessly with Bluetooth, if you have any idea what that is. All I'm saying is, if you're going to get some earbuds, you got to get the Raycons. And right now, you can go to BuyRaycon, BuyRaycon, buyraycon.com/JCE and get 15% off the entire order. Whatever you want to buy, they're going to give you 15% off. buyraycon.com/JCE, 15% off. Get a pair and then get a spare. And then you'll have a pair to spare.
All right, well, let's get a couple of follow-ups, and then we'll hear some cameos before we wrap things up. Jim, here's a follow-up on Mantar.
Oh, God.
Sent to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com from Tim Linscott in Fairbury, Nebraska.
Fairbury, Nebraska?
I believe that's what it is. I heard you talk about Mantar, Mike Halleck, on the Drive-Thru last week, and you wanted to know if Vince would bring him back. Mike lives in Omaha, Nebraska, where he is originally from. He has had health issues in the past few years, but is recovering and raising his daughters as a proud dad.
Oh, good.
He makes appearances in the Midwest for wrestling promotions and conventions. He's appeared in a few horror movies. He was inducted into the...
What are you laughing at?
He was inducted into the I'm sorry, I don't know why this is cracking me up. He was inducted into the Nebraska Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame with names like Mad Dog Vachon, Sting, Baron Von Raschke, and the DiBiase family.
Wait a minute, what the fuck? Hold on. Mad Dog Vachon lived in Omaha, Nebraska for an extended period of time and was a world champion, the AWA champion, when it was based out of Omaha, one of Vern's satellite offices. And who else you mention was in the Hall of Fame?
Again, this is why I started laughing. The Nebraska Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Yes.
With names like Mad Dog Vachon.
Right.
Sting.
Well, hold on. Keep going.
Baron Von Raschke and the DiBiase family.
Okay, Baron Von Raschke. He wrestled at Nebraska, right?
I think so.
I understand it. What the fuck connection does Sting have to the state of Nebraska?
I have no idea.
I'm not saying he shouldn't be in the fucking Nebraska Hall of Fame, except I don't know if Sting's ever been to Nebraska. How did they just pick Sting to be in the... All right. Anyway, so what was the question?
Well, it wasn't a question. It's an update on...
It's an update
Mantar.
on Mantar. Well, I'm sorry to hear he's had ill health, but I'm glad he's feeling better.
Also, Tim says...
And maybe he can explain to us how Sting ended up in the Nebraska Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Tim also says he has interviewed Mantar a few times, and he's a very nice guy. Paul New lives in Omaha as well, and getting the two together is a hoot. So PN News and Mantar apparently are friends.
Though they're related some way. They're cousins or something. Yes. There's a line there, and I'm not even going to go for it because he's been in ill health. But PN News and Mantar are related in some fashion. That's what I believe I've heard.
All right. Well, our next question, another follow-up, our final question this week, sent on Twitter using the hashtag CornyDriveThru from David M. Levy. This is a follow-up to the Midnight Express Ric Flair Barry Windham watch-along. You said heels don't throw drop kicks. Why is that?
Oh, my God. Where do I start? Now you bring this the last question. This could take 3 hours in a wrestling school class. I mean, now everybody does everything because it doesn't make any difference. But when you hear people like me talking about so-and-so doesn't wrestle like a babyface or so-and-so doesn't wrestle like a heel or whatever the case, there obviously always can be exceptions and were exceptions. But a drop kick, a flying drop kick is a babyface move. And I mentioned that Stan threw, that was the first because Stan had just switched babyface for the first time in 5 years since he'd been a fabulous one or whatever. And that's probably the first time. He didn't throw a lot of drop kicks as the Fabs either. But babyfaces didn't throw, or heels didn't throw drop kicks because it was a babyface move. And heels wrestled by breaking the rules. Heels did more dastardly shit. Heels did more violent looking shit. Heels took shortcuts whenever possible. Baby faces went out and did arm drags and hip tosses and drop kicks and the stuff that was visually exciting and could show their athleticism and that the people would cheer for. A drop kick done well is an impressive thing visually and also an impressive impact move. And if a heel did it, the people would probably still cheer, which is why the heel didn't do it. Because the heel didn't want to do any move that people would cheer for. As we mentioned earlier in the program, when you were a fucking heel the level of like the manager of Jerry Lawler, Sam Bass, who the people would cheer when they found out you got killed, well, it didn't much matter. But as a general rule, babyfaces would get mad if the heel that they were working with went out and did their babyface shit better than they could, especially. And the heels didn't want to do shit that the people might cheer, because then not only would the babyface they were working with get mad at him, but the promoter would say, well, what the fuck? I brought this guy to be a heel and the people are fucking cheering him. He's the shits. And he'd fucking get rid of him. There were just certain rules of thumb and things that you learned from the veterans and from the people that broke you in the business that knew way more than you did. And those are the things that you absorbed, and those are the things that have all been forgotten, because now nobody listens to people that know more than they do. And the people that know more than most of these guys do these days have quit even trying, and have, like me, unless they have a financial reason to be involved, stay as far away from what they fucking see as wrestling now as they possibly can. But if you go back and look at video or film of when people knew what they were doing and they weren't worried about getting all their shit in, and they weren't worried about doing snazzy stuff on television, and they weren't worried about having the greatest match that was ever held in the history of wrestling with every goddamn scrub they get in the ring with, babyfaces wrestled like babyfaces, and heels wrestled like heels. And babyfaces tried to do shit that the people would cheer for, and heels tried to do shit that the people would fucking not like. It was very simple that way, too. But now, since the whole thing's fell to shit, I guess that's why people ask, why would a drop kick not be a thing a heel would do? I don't know if there's guys in the business now that have been in the business for 10 years that wouldn't have been laughed out of a fucking locker room 30 years ago for what they think about the wrestling business.
Well, Jim, a brief follow-up in real time. I have gone through the website of the Nebraska Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, and I don't actually see Sting listed as one of the inductees.
Oh, so this guy was just padding the roster.
He could be mistaken, but there have been apparently 3 classes, and Sting is not in either of them that I see here, or any of them that I see here.
Okay. Well, good. Then we've established that.
Okay. Well, let's hear some cameos, Jim.
Well,
of course, for those of you who are new to the show, Jim has considered for a long time doing cameo. So many people have demanded it, but it's time consuming. There's some effort involved. So,
well, now wait, don't say it like that. I would have to have a smartphone and know how to work it, or I'm going to have to hire somebody, which is what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be hiring somebody to do that for me. And I'm thinking about doing this later on in the year after I get finished with Stacy's back surgery and restocking the store and my various projects that I'm working on here during the wintertime. Springtime, we may be doing something. And we were listening to some of these cameos to get some ideas on what to do and what not to do, what the people like, what the people don't like, some of the mistakes that some of the people that are shooting these things have been making. I know now from Smokey Robinson never to wish anybody a happy Chinooka. And we know that Ric Flair needs a better microphone on some of his videos because he sounds like Neil Armstrong broadcasting from the moon. So we're picking up tips and helpful hints, and we're listening to some of these and just sharing the joy with people around the world that you can get these greetings from these celebrities.
That's right.
See, that's way better than you explained it.
How much do you think Virgil charges?
Oh, my God. $5,000.
Close. $69. Would you like to hear Holiday?
And I know he picked that number for just such an occasion.
Would you like to hear Holiday, announcement, birthday celebration, pep talk, or a mystery one that is not labeled?
Oh, with Virgil, you got to go with the mystery. Is there going to be something about meat sauce?
I don't know. We will see what he says right here.
This is WWF wrestling superstar Virgil. Brian, you and I are about the same. You won 4 fantasy football championships, and I won the $1 million belt. Brian, your last name is Winner. My last name is Winner, but we're both fuck money, baby, first place.
Okay.
That was it?
Fuck money, baby, first place? What? That was Virgil.
He's got some catchphrases he uses that nobody knows what they are except him.
Hold on. I kind of want to hear pep talk. Hold on.
Let's hear some kind of pep in the talk.
This is WWF wrestling superstar Virgil of the WWF. Jacob wishes all his Facebook friends a happy New Year. And Jacob does 15% of the work everywhere. And he receives 62% of the fuck money around the world. So Jacob, keep getting that fuck money and quit jerking the fuck off. Later.
All right.
Well, that was definitely a pep talk that would get you up and motivated. Brian, I hate to make blanket statements or declarative statements, but I'm starting to get the idea that I might be able to do this a little better than other people.
I think that's a fair assumption to make. Jim, how much do you think Buff Bagwell charges?
Oh, well, now, is this for his gigolo business or just the cameo? Or does he bring the cameo in person and knock on a door and slip it in there?
I have a feeling the gigolo business may have dropped off in the recent years.
You think that the gigolo business is
his gigolo business
has dropped off
for him? Yeah,
possibly drooped a bit.
How much do you think he charges?
$200. Boy,
you have not gotten any of these right yet.
I'm bad on figuring these out.
$50.
See, I'm thinking of the people's these people's opinions of themselves, not what people might want to pay, but what they would want to charge.
Well, they pick their own rate, so I guess that is a fair way to look at it. Do you want to hear birthday celebration, other, New Year, or holiday?
Other.
I am Buff, I am the stuff, and the girls just can't get enough. But this shout out goes to Ken Mason. Hello, toy hoarders. Buff the stuff is here. I just want to let you know that Ken Mason has the real stuff and sells the best stuff every week here in his auctions. So, if you want to hang with the big dogs like myself, I will see you at his next auction. Buff Daddy has spoken. Listen closely.
Well, there it is. Now people are just getting these guys to plug their things that they have nothing to do with.
Is there a drug test requirement to get on Cameo?
I don't think so.
Because I'm starting to think that you're required to be on drugs at the moment you are doing the cameos.
How much do you think the Sandman charges?
Oh, well, it could go either way, but I'm gonna try to slip in there and say $52.50.
$31.
$31.
Former ECW champion. Let's go to this.
Morgan, my boy. Hey, you know this is the Sandman. And your boy Will paid me to send you guys a little shout out. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to give it to you hardcore style. Yo, you want to get extreme? You want to be hardcore? Well, you got to listen to any Dons, boy, because that shit is the best. Happy fucking New Year, Morgan.
All right, I don't know what the hell he's talking about there, but there we go.
He took notes and fulfilled the customer's wish.
Jim, a favorite of ours that we've seen on wrestling this year, Ian Riccaboni, or Riccaboni. How much do you think he charges?
Well, Ian's a professional announcer, a well-spoken guy who can speak extemporaneously on a number of topics. He's got a pleasing smile, a very nice, pleasant demeanor. I would say he's easily worth $80 to $100.
This may be the best deal on here. We haven't heard it yet, but $10.
What? And Cameo takes a big chunk.
Well, let's see what he has
Ian,
to say.
I got to be your agent.
Hey, what's up, Mr. and Mrs. Trey? It's Ian Riccaboni from Ring of Honor. Your friend El Dutman, he wanted to check in and wish you happy holidays and best of luck. He said you bought a new house, which is very exciting. And I'm in my basement because I'm here to advise you to not do what I've done. We moved in about 3 years ago at this point, and the basement is still a mess. And it's kind of finished. We could be using this to have fun. We're using it to watch college football. I heard you're a big Penn State fan. I root for the Gators myself. My family lives down near Ocala, Florida, near Gainesville. So even though I'm born and raised in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and I hear you moving to Ship, I'm a big Gator fan. So pretty interesting fact. Penn State, I think, has actually been a little bit more successful in their history. But it's really cool that you're a huge wrestling fan. I hope you're able to catch Ring of Honor. We've been doing some fun stuff, but I know that everybody's really excited and happy and proud of you and your wife for the new house and the new baby. Raising a kid is fun. It's the most unanticipated, greatest surprise that we've ever had, just in terms of how much fun it is and what you learn about you, your relationship, yourself, and so on. And I just can't tell you and stress enough just how much of a thrill it is and how much fun you'll have. The biggest thing that I can say is that you should take a lot of pictures, both of your house, because even though we just moved in here about 3 years ago, your house changes quickly.
I'm going to call it.
Okay.
Very nice guy.
I'm going to say one thing. What a wonderful, pleasant, nice fellow Ian Riccaboni is. And that's probably the best deal on Cameo there, as you said. And Ian, I'll just say to you what Bill Watts used to say about the Junkyard Dog. They're not paying him by the hour. So get in, get out, give us some sound bites. I'll produce Ian. We'll make a fortune together.
Jim?
Wonderful young man.
El Hijo del Santo.
No.
Yes.
I'm even more surprised that he's on here than that Smokey Robinson was on here.
How much do you think he charges?
Oh, at least 500 pesos.
I don't know the conversion rate as we speak, but $45. Let's hear El Hijo del Santo.
Hola Margarita, ¿cómo estás? Soy el Hijo del Santo y este mensaje es de parte de Vladimir. Y me pidió que te dijera, mi querida Márgara, muchas felicidades por tu cumpleaños. Ya pronto lo van a celebrar como están acostumbrados, dentro de una arena de lucha libre, gritando, divirtiéndose mucho. Y yo también los extraño, Margarita. Yo también quiero ese ambiente.
All right, I'm going to call this one too.
Okay. Well, there's the problem with cameos from another country. Is there a way you can specify what language you would like?
Well, we don't even know if he speaks English, to be fair.
Well, that's true. Well, then there should be some type of, what if you in New Jersey say, I want the cameo from El Hijo del Santo? Is there a button, please English, please? Or do you just take what you can get?
I think you take what you can get.
Or like Smokey Robinson, he doesn't even know how to speak English, apparently.
How much do you think Joel Gertner charges?
What, for cameo or
for cameo?
Some of his other unsavory services.
Will you stop it? Very nice guy, Joel Gertner.
A hell of a guy. $30.
$50.
Oh, for heaven's sake. Now, wait a minute. You can get Joel Gertner, costs $50, but you can get Ian Riccaboni for $10. Now, they need to meet in the middle. Go ahead.
You get El Hijo del Santo for $45.
Well, but you're not going to know what the fuck he's saying.
Well, here's Joel Gertner.
Well, it is I, the lyrical miracle, the sexual intellectual, the cunning linguist.
Oh,
What the?
And the quintessential stud muffin. Joel, this random woman was all over me and started to go right for my dick until she stopped. But it was to remind me to record a birthday greeting for Dominic Gertner. And this one goes out to you from Megan. And she mentions that you are a huge ECW fan, back to the 90s, love professional wrestling, and even have memorized my old ring intros for Devon, where I would announce him as slim, trim, buff, cut, ripped, chiseled, and jacked. That is awesome. Dominic, it is good to know you. I'm glad to meet you. Nothing but happiness and health in the next year of your life and along your journey. Live well, well, well. And once again, happy birthday.
Well, he started out as fucking Hugh Hefner and ended up as Norman Vincent Peale. Although, why was he whispering through some of that? It was like he didn't want his parents upstairs to hear him.
I can't explain it. I will say, I've killed Justin Roberts many times for being awful at his job. Joel became a gimmick eventually with the Dudley Boys, but underrated ring announcer in ECW. He was actually really good, I thought, as just a ring announcer. But let's get another one on here. Jim? Oh, boy.
Uh-oh.
How much do you think Marty Jannetty charges?
Oh, my God. Wait a minute. To dispose of a body? Or, Jannetty's got to be going for $74.95.
Oh, it's the closest you've come. $70.
Oh!
Here's Marty Jannetty.
Hey, Lou. Man, I've heard you call a lot of names lately. But I'm that other guy. And I heard, man, you didn't do too good this year. One of your partners left you and went on to the main event or something like that. But man, hey, your friends love you to death to do this. But I just want to say, don't get upset, because this other guy, Intercontinental Champion, let me say it right, Intercontinental. Did I say that right? Intercontinental Champion, tag team champion with a different person. It was the 1, 2, 3 kid at the time, X-Pac. But which that would tell you, first guy must not have been that good. Yeah, so don't worry, man. Go ahead and win everything next year. But I heard you got beat up this year. Love you, brother.
Okay. You
and so wait a minute. On this, you are playing these because these are on the internet as samples of what you can get if you purchase these products, right?
Correct. On their pages, these are the samples, the free samples you can sample.
How did that get chosen as a sample of something? And in all honesty, how did that get chosen as a sample of something, I wonder? And
to be fair, I'm not certain if you picked the samples or if it's the 5 most recent that you've done.
I won't even comment on that one because I just feel bad for some people. But I don't know if I would be recording these some people should address some other things first, I think, before recording these. Let's put it that way.
Jim, how much do you think Darby Allin charges?
Oh, good Lord. Well, now he's one of these guys. He doesn't need much. He's a simple man, a very simple man. As a matter of fact, I heard he told the story. He slept in his car the night before their last big pay-per-view that he had the big match on because he wanted to remember what it was like when he was sleeping in his car as a struggling independent wrestler. And my comment on that was my memory's never been that bad that I needed to fucking do something that miserable again to remind myself of what it felt like. And I could just sleep in that fucking DoubleTree hotel that Tony Khan paid for and imagine that I was still sleeping in my car, but he went all the way with it. I bet he only charges $4.99.
No, it's $85.
God damn. So apparently these young skateboarders, when they somehow come into money, they just get greedy and they want more and more and more.
Or 4 interest-free payments of $22.
What? No. What? Wait,
this may be something across the forum. I'm not sure, but I just noticed it here. $85 or 4 interest-free payments of $22.
Well, then that's $88. That is interest.
That is $3. Let's hear from Darby.
I'm not interested then.
Heidi, this is Darby Allen without my makeup. I want to congratulate you on everything.
Yo, Heidi, This is Darby Allen, and I'd like to wish you best of luck in everything you've done. I heard this year has been really rough for you. You've gone through a lot, and you overcame a lot of anxiety and struggles. And I also heard that you listen to my theme song every day to help you get through it. Well, I'd like to say thanks for all the love and support, and you keep being relentless and kicking ass. For whatever 2021 brings, you're going to handle it.
You know what? You can't see this, obviously. I'm going to give him credit. Someone got their money's worth. He had some other guy saying he was Darby Allen, and then Darby attacks him and beats him up in a wrestling
that's what
ring.
That sound was.
Yeah, hold on. This guy...
They did a bit. They put some work into it.
I think that's someone getting their money's worth. Here's another one. Let me see if they do the exact same thing, because it's the same background and seemingly the same frumpy guy pretending to be Darby Allen. Let's see what this is.
Maurice, I hope you have a wonderful birthday. Just kidding. I hope it sucks.
Yo, Maurice, this is Darby Allen, and I'd like to wish you a happy birthday. It's very unfortunate that you didn't get to see AEW live before the pandemic, but hopefully when this shit's all over with, I will see you. Thanks for all the support. Have a kick-ass birthday, Maurice, and don't listen to this asshole.
You know what? I'm going to tell you, Darby Allen, you get your money's worth.
Why? Okay, this is the fucking mute on television. He's the modern-day version of El Generico, the best promo in the company as a fucking gimmick where he's a mute and can't speak, and then somebody makes him speak, and he's fucking great.
He shoots this guy into the other turnbuckle, and the guy just falls and dies each time. Hold on, I've got to see... Because they've kept it clever both times. Let me see what this one is.
Tiffany, your cat named Darby Allen climbed into my yard while I was gardening and clawed me. I'm gonna put it down!
Hey, yo.
God damn it, I can't see this. What's going on?
And, heard your cat named Darby is a really good cat. Don't listen to that asshole. And, if I'm your future ex-husband, hopefully this guy is there to help me with my tears. Tiffany.
And the guy's just laying flat on the mat like he's dead. I gotta say, Darby Allen, these are clever, these are funny. Definitely, in my eyes, worth your money. I think that's good.
He's the guy that doesn't speak on his television program.
No, he's great
but on
here.
Cameo, he's a little chatterbox and doing skits for the fans.
He's fantastic on here. I have to say, that absolutely worth your money. Jim, I don't know if the tooth and nail rule applies to this.
Oh, boy.
How much do you think Dr. Britt Baker charges?
Well, if she's anything like my dentist, let's see. How do you figure out per minute at a couple of $100 an hour? $100, because she's a sexy female.
I got it? For the first time, you got it on the button. $100.
Son of a gun. Does she do them naked?
Or 4 interest-free payments of $25.
Now, see, that is $100.
That is $100. I don't know why the other one was $3 more. But here is Dr. Britt Baker.
What's up? This is Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, the role model, and this message is for Kristen, who is celebrating a 12th birthday here pretty soon, which is awesome. I love 12. 12 was one of my favorite years. I was so successful when I was 12 years old. I think that's really when my life made a turnaround and I became such a success and such a star, is when I was 12 years old. So let's go ahead and aim for that for you too, Kristen. Kristen, 12 is going to be your year. You too are going to be a role model this year. Okay?
That's all right. I think
Was
that's
she
pretty
at
good.
the bus station, though? What was the background noise?
Well, she appears to be in a restaurant of some sort or something.
Why would you do this at dinner? Why would you be eating in a restaurant during a pandemic is the bigger question. But then secondarily to that, why would you be doing this at dinner?
Well, here's Dr. Baker in a chair, maybe outside of her front window. I'm not exactly sure. Let's hear this one.
What is up, Wes and Marcy? This is Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, the role model. And this is from Christy Wong. And we both want to tell you, happy anniversary. And that is it, because you know what? We're sick of talking about you two. We need to talk about Christy. Christy's the real role model here because she's the one that booked this cameo. So when are you going to book one for her? Huh? It's not all about you. It's not all about your anniversary. It's not all about your relationship. Think about the world. Think about the role model messages that need to be sent out from me. Think of other people for once in your life. Look up to me for advice because I'm a role model and I'm a selfless human being and I would never do that to Christy. Okay? Be better, guys. Be better. Happy anniversary.
See, again, going to the Derby...
Okay, for part of that, she sounded like she was floating down a city drainage culvert. What? Was she washing dishes there? I'm not seeing the video on this.
No,
so
she was just sitting there.
Where was the water coming from?
I don't know.
And then it suddenly was turned off.
I don't know. I can't explain what was happening.
Did she not pay the water bill?
I don't know.
A lot of unanswered questions.
A lot of unanswered questions. But again, going to Darby Allin, I gotta say, at least it's kind of personalized. There's a little bit going on there. It's not just, hey, I got some money, I'm throwing something out.
While you're at dinner or floating down a city drainage ditch, you know, no, that's if I was going to do this, I would be there would be some preparation. There would be some level of production quality. There would be a level of professionalism involved. I understand they can't all be as long as Ian Riccaboni's, who apparently could have done the fucking voice read for the audiobook of Roots in about that same amount of time. But you got to give the people some content.
Jim, how much do you think MJF charges?
Oh boy. Just to be a prick, I say he charges $1,500.
$500.
Oh God, all right. He's just not quite as big of a prick as I thought he was yet.
Here's MJF.
It's me. You know, MJF. The youngest and fastest rising star in the history of professional wrestling. The one and only pro wrestler in the history of our great sport. Who has ever been in the New York Times Best Performer of the Year list. But more importantly, I'm really hot. And as a very hot, attractive man, I'm here to tell you happy birthday. And if you're looking to celebrate, seriously, don't call me. Your friend sent me a photo of you. You're pretty fucking ugly. Happy birthday.
That's perfect.
Well, there it is. $500 from MJF to insult you.
That's a $500 birthday present that everybody could sink their teeth into. Why is nobody sending messages to people? Hey, you motherfucker, I'm pissed at you, and here's why. Number 1, B, 3, etc. Something like that.
I don't know. That's a very good question. We're going to get one last one, but I want to do a follow-up one for me. The latest batch from Dallas Page, is he still just plugging his yoga nonstop?
Okay, let's see what Dallas is doing
This
now.
is the most recent upload from Dallas Page. By the way, he's wearing a DDP yoga shirt with an American flag in the cameo, but let's hear this.
Yo, Brent. What is up, brother? It's me. It's DDP. P. That's right, Diamond Dallas Page, the king of bada bing. The master of the diamond cutter, the 3-time world champion, WWE Hall of Famer, and founder and CEO of DDP Yoga, better known today as DDPY. Why, Brent?
Because it ain't just fucking yoga.
Because I want people to stop calling it just effing yoga. But I'm not here to talk about, I guess I kind of am, but not really. I'm not here to talk about the greatest transformation app on the planet. I'm here to wish you a very special, amazing, what's better than this? Happy birthday, brother, from Jennifer, your loving wife, I'm guessing, because he says, my husband, Brent, is turning 33 on January 4th, and I think I just got in under the wire. So would love it to wish you a happy birthday. And she said you're a huge fan and that you started doing DDP yoga a few years ago. So I'm guessing you're using it in DVDs. So I'm going to give you 30 free days on the app. You just got to email Robert at ddpyoga.com and he'll set you up with 30 free days, bro. Since you are a huge wrestling fan too. Oh, wait a minute. Also want to throw in, if you guys haven't heard, we have a new documentary out called Relentless. It's on Amazon Prime. I really appreciate
Relentless?
it. After you watch it, especially, right, you'll see, it's just, the journey is amazing, like how we came up with all this. It's a really powerful, inspirational movie. But, and Jennifer, watch it with them because it really has nothing to do with wrestling. About a bunch of wrestlers, but not about wrestling.
Then show it to your neighbors.
Yeah, either is this.
A review for that too. I'd be, grateful. And Jennifer, I'm telling you, I need a ridiculous 5-star review from you for this because I haven't even started yet. Here comes the real birthday treat.
All right, we're gonna call this one.
All right, yeah. You know what I love about Pages is that he's literally an artist at the way that he just peripherally and incidentally mentions his projects without them taking over the main gist of the message. It's subliminal.
He plugged multiple things there and then asked for positive reviews for the multiple things he plugged.
Well, hey, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and if you don't ask, you never know.
Sadly, there are no examples for Scott Steiner.
See, now
he doesn't give any free examples.
Well, I can believe that of Scotty. I'm not giving him any free stuff.
All right, I'm trying to find a good one.
Happy New Year, kid. That's my cameo. One more.
I'm trying to find a good one to end on.
What's Smokey Robinson doing these days?
Oh, you want someone who's not from wrestling?
Yeah.
Name a celebrity. Let's see if they're in here, other than Smokey.
Oh, for heaven's sake. I just, off the top of my head on the sperm of the moment, Bruce Willis.
No way. No way he's in here.
Smokey Robinson's in there.
Hold on. There we go. Bruce. Yeah, Bruce Willis is not here.
Bruce Willis ain't in there. All right. Well, you pick one. You got the gimmick in front of you.
I don't know. Name a show you liked when you were a kid.
Well, they're all dead.
Hold on. Let me see. Is this person here? Nope. I was looking to see if Jerry Mathers was here. But he's not. Tony Dow. No, there's no Tony Dow.
And by the way, the Leave It to Beaver was not my favorite show. Robert Conrad is dead. We've established that. Happened here not long ago. No, everybody I watched on TV when I was a kid is dead. Aren't they?
I don't think everybody, but let's see here. How much do you think Pete Rose charges?
Oh, well, probably 5 to 1.
Charges $150. And
I was given the odds. I'm sorry.
Here's Pete Rose.
Hey, Don, it's Pete Rose. I'm sorry to hear you lost your lovely wife, Joyce, who was my biggest fan on the planet. I know you're getting a ton of health problems yourself, but I want you to remember, stay strong. I want to wish you a happy 85th birthday and tell you to slow down, and you'll make 100. And listen to your son, Jeff. He's a smart guy, and he's the one that made this video possible.
All right.
Holy shit. All right. I'll tell you one thing. I'm not doing any condolences on dead spouses, and I'm not talking about people's ill health. Why do you want to bring that up and remind them? He knows he's got crotch rot. Why does Pete Rose need to fucking bring it up?
I'm looking on the front page of some of the people new to cameo or featured. Paula Abdul.
By the way, Pete Rose always had to get paid in cash on those pay-per-view appearances where he'd get tombstoned by Kane or whatever. So he went to the fucking Foxwoods Casino after that Boston show. By the time WrestleMania was off the air, he was at the casino spending the money that they paid him.
Are you serious?
That's why I said it.
Wow.
I'm not just making this up
Well, it's Pete Rose. You hear a gambling thing, you think it's a joke.
No, he got paid in cash, and he was when we were in Boston, right? That's where Kane dropped him on his head, right? He was at Foxwoods before the show was off the air.
Man.
Anyway, new to cameo.
Also on cameo now, Kenny G. Andrew Dice Clay.
Oh, for heaven's sake!
Hold on, we're gonna end with this one.
End with Clay. I'm about to my kidneys are full.
$2.99 for Andrew Dice Clay. Here he is. Oh boy, you should see this outfit.
Oh, AB. I think it's AB. ABIE. AB.
Sounds like Enzo.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. They didn't sound that. By the way, this is from Jack and Jennifer. Okay? Lifelong friends for your 50th birthday. That's beautiful. And I hear you're a brilliant doctor. They didn't say what kind. That you're a wonderful husband, a parent, and a great friend. But, like everybody, you got your fucking problems. By the way, Dice. One and only. It's amazing to even get a cameo from Dice, especially on your 50th birthday milestone. I'm having a healthy drink. My new girlfriend insists on it. And by the way, Doc, I don't like these. I haven't lit them in years now. I just hold them. Anyway, I know this is hysterical. What you walking in the middle?
Sorry, I didn't know you were doing that.
Oh my God!
This guy's a doctor and he hates his patients, which means he has no bedside manner. You know what I mean?
Well, maybe he doesn't like the patients behind their backs, but he's nice to their face.
Yeah, but you know what? Look, I have fans like that. There are fans I love and fans I don't love. And but I just love that he hates his patients. He just 50 years old, they're all coming in. Can I just ask you one more thing, Doc? Yeah, what? What is it?
I wonder what kind of doctor he is.
I don't know what kind of doctor. I don't know where he is in the pecking order. I mean, top of the food chain is the neurologist, okay? Then you got the cardiologist, that's your heart and lung guy. Then you got, they used to just be called doctors. Now they're called internists. They wanted a name. Because everything they find out is through the asshole. Even if you come there with a runny nose and you're coughing, they don't know anything till they're screwing one or two of their fingers in your asshole, and then they go, oh, yeah, you need Robitussin.
Is he wearing a bathrobe?
They even have Robitussin for the asshole.
No, he's not.
It's a whole packing order, babe. Then it's the fucking dentist, and then the chiropractor that can't even be a fucking dentist. So they go, all right, let's teach this guy how to give a good massage and give a little pop on the back. Anyway, whatever kind of doctor you are, thanks for all your help. And, your friends think maybe you have a different sexual preference than that. They're big shots. Jack and Jennifer are big shots because he's gluing his fucking onions to her meat steak. So he thinks he's king of the world. Number one, I'd have to take a good look at her to even see if she's worthy of having a pair of fucking bulldog balls bang against her fat fucking ass. And hopefully she's got a nice pair of fucking sort of cow tits to grab and slap on to the bottom of your bone rock and split her in half like a piñata and give her a belly full of fucking banana juice. But this cameo ain't about them. They want me to talk to you, which I have. It's your birthday. Oh, what's that?
He has a lot in common with
Yeah, he's got like no patience. You know what I mean?
He doesn't like, I don't want to say it out loud too loud, but he doesn't like his neighbors.
You don't like his neighbors. I fucking hate my neighbors. Yeah, did you hear her? This is my new girlfriend, by the way. She don't want to be seen. But, yeah, you know, I don't think anybody really likes their neighbors.
These are like
Unless
tapes of
it's a
therapy
TV show.
sessions.
Then everybody's all friendly. But in real life, oh, fuck them with the, you know, I came home last night and part of your car was in my driveway. Yeah, well, your driveway is 15 feet wide. Did you get past the 1 inch of my car that's in your fucking driveway? Were you able to figure that out, you stupid fuck? Get off my land.
There's somebody right there.
What? Let the dog out. How do I know who's walking and doing? Why don't you mind your business when I'm into something, talking to somebody? Anyway, Abe,
Emotional issues. You have emotional issues.
we all go through things.
Y'all have a lot in common.
That's what the thought doctor's about. What the fuck are they called again? They don't know. Therapy.
Psychiatrist.
When you go to a therapist. What, babe?
A therapist?
That's what I just said. That's an emotional doctor. You go, you know, my mother took the Apple Jacks away from me, so now I hate apples and jacks. All that shit.
You know what?
What?
I think this guy, I'm not sure, but I think he's a neurologist.
You know what? Neurologist or not, I want to wish you a healthy and a happy 50th birthday, a wonderful birthday. You got friends that care about you, family that cares about you. I love you. I mean, if we were having coffee, what we would talk about between the neighbors and emotionally and... What's that?
I think this is
Wait,
him.
you got a pic...
I think.
How'd you get a picture of him?
Because they put his name on there. I Googled him. But I'm not sure.
God.
That's hysterical. Give me that. Let me just show him.
I think that's him,
Wait.
but it could be another guy with the same name.
This might be you. This might be you. She Googled you. It's amazing.
But I'm not sure.
But he's 50. Is this guy 50?
He could be.
I don't know. He looks like a fun guy.
Is there a time limit on
New York?
He's in New York.
Well, I'll call it there for you.
Good God.
That is certainly your money's worth.
I have several questions. I'm not sure about your money's worth and maybe length, but I have several questions. Number one, Andrew Dice Clay, when did he go from having the booming voice and the stentorian tone that commanded the room to sounding like a guy that just walked away from a state home in fucking Queens? What? How old is he now?
Oh, geez, I don't know. I mean, he was working with Ruben in the late 80s, right?
Yes. He should be he sounds like he's either 80 or suffering from some type of early onset dementia, and he's a comedian. He's a comedian. He can't do doctor jokes, like the old human joke machine. Maury Amsterdam, doctor jokes. Hey, I went to the dentist. I said, Doc, my teeth are yellow. He said, wear a brown tie. Or I tell you, I know a guy who was a proctologist. He started at the bottom and stayed there. Or my uncle was a psychiatrist. The other day, his nurse ran in and said, "Doctor, there's a patient in the waiting room, thinks he's invisible." Doctor said, "Tell him I can't see him." Shit like that.
Well, whoever this doctor is, he just got like a whole private, well, not private, but a whole Andrew Dice Clay monologue that's unique to him. That's kind of cool for $299.
What he just got was two apparently impaired people meandering verbally around their living room while he was eavesdropping. I felt like I needed to take a shower afterwards listening to that. The poor guy, his faculties are leaving him. He's on the verge of sipping oatmeal through a straw because he can't feed himself. Poor Andrew Dice Clay.
Well, he is going blind. I don't know if you know that. He wears
I did not know that.
He wears giant glasses like an old man 50 years ago.
Or like Les Thatcher. What about Les Thatcher was doing fucking promos in Smoky Mountain Wrestling. I walked up to him. I said, "Thatcher, you look like a seal peering through a block of ice." You had to be there and look at it. It was funny if you looked at him.
All right. Well, with that, very low energy way of ending this drive-through.
Let's just slink on off while we still can.
Want to remind you, you can hear the brand new Jim Cornette Experience, the first episode of 2021, this Friday, wherever you find your favorite podcast. I believe Jim told me to DVR Monday Night Raw for Legends Night, so...
Legends Night this week.
We'll be talking about some of the... Actually, it's a pretty big week. I think NXT has a loaded lineup, and AEW has a loaded lineup, so there may be a lot to talk about this week.
We might have to get loaded.
Well, that's a good idea. Marty Jannetty, get in touch. But of course, the Drive-Thru returns next Monday wherever you find your favorite podcast. Hear classic episodes of the Drive-Thru and the Experience by becoming a patron. Patreon.com/Cornette. For only $5 a month, you get in the door and get access to the archives from the beginning in 2013. Right now, we are in the beginning of 2016. Episodes added each and every Sunday evening. Patreon.com/Cornette. Don't forget the official Jim Cornette YouTube channel, tinyurl.com/official Corny YouTube, or just go to YouTube and search for Jim Cornette for full episodes, clips of episodes, omnibus collections, all with the exclusive and amazing Travis Heckel artwork, the official Jim Cornette YouTube channel. You can follow Jim on Twitter.
If Walt Disney had Travis Heckel working for him, Fantasia would have been a commercial success.
That's a high compliment. Travis is a big Disney fan, like so many of us are. Of course, you can follow Jim on Twitter at @TheJimCornette. You can follow me on Twitter at GreatBrianLast. You can hear me on the 605 Superpodcast at 605pod.com. Available wherever you find your favorite podcasts. Don't forget, Cornette's Collectibles at JimCornette.com.
Yes, forget about them for the next 4 to 6 weeks. We're closed.
Back from renovations in February. JimCornette.com. The Drive-Thru is brought to you by the Law Office of Stephen P. New, 888-692-8084. Get even with Stephen at newlawoffice.com. But until Friday on The Experience, and next week right back here on the Drive-Thru, for Jim Cornette, I'm the Great Brian Last. Tally-ho.
Ouch!